Ladies and gentlemen, hello, good evening, and welcome to week 6, day kinda two and a half here at Black Twitch League. We've had a lot of reschedules in the past couple of weeks as we are getting down to the wire for the final push into playoffs. This evening, we've got a fun match. We've got Spectre facing off against Imagine Cloud. Spectre, of course, is missing a game, so they're currently sitting at 3-1. Imagine Cloud just below the 500 line at 2-3. I am your host, Aulz. This evening, I am joined on the desk by former Imagine Cloud player SwiftDuelist. Welcome to the party, my friend.
Hello, thank you for the introductions. And yes, he is right. I was formerly a player for Imagine Cloud, no longer anymore, but still all respect to them. I'm not gonna be biased in any way in my cast, so don't worry about that. I'm gonna be chill.
They're used to me flaming them, so I don't think they'll mind all that much. Jokes
Eh,
as... Sorry, go right ahead.
You're good. I was like, they're usually chill. I don't think I want to flame them too much, so like I'll be just keep an eye out for it, I guess.
Well, jokes aside here, you've got a pretty good eye into the minds of these Imagine Cloud players. They're facing up against one of the top few teams in this league in Spectre. What are we going to be expecting them to pull out here?
Well, I haven't been paying too much attention as far as like recently, like if there's any adjustments or any new things that they've wanted to try out. But from what I played with them and what I felt like worked, I feel like their strengths as a team is playing around mid and jungle pretty consistently. And even if mid and jungle isn't like the super carry of the team, like I feel like the team still has reliable enough players like in the top side and in the bot side of the map where they don't necessarily have to get massive leads every game to be able to close games out. It's just a matter of execution, I think, for them.
Sure, and you think they've got that execution this far into the season, or are they still finding their way to that?
I mean, considering I've been gone for a bit, I think by now I think they've gotten a decent idea of like what they want to play. And I think they've had enough time to figure that out, especially since, from what I saw, they barely lost to Performance Ducks. I forget the full name, but PUD, like they nearly took them out 2-1. So they already have kind of an idea of what to play. We just gotta see how well they get it off this time around.
Very fair. Of course, the Ducks did fall earlier in week 6, so bit of craziness going on here. Nobody can hold on to that top spot, it seems like, in this league. But that makes it more fun for us. Looks like we
hmm
are going to go ahead and get into draft here.
Yeah, so far, I mean, we're looking at Elise. It's pretty much Greece's most played. It's like whenever we were discussing it, anytime he gets it, it's pretty much a free win. So if I were the enemy team, I'd probably ban it off of him as well. And Maokai coming out, I feel like he's probably one of the most versatile champions in the meta right now, as we've seen at Worlds. Dude can just be picked in nearly every lane and probably get away with it, depending on the matchup. So no qualms for me this early into the draft.
Yeah, I'd love to see Learning pull out a Maokai ADC. I think that would be a lot of fun for us here. Maybe
Yeah,
a bit of a stretch, though.
just a tad, possibly, maybe. But seems like the next couple bands, ADC centric or at least bot centric. We've got Zeri and Yumi taken off the board. Zeri, probably my favorite ADC, most favorite ADC at the moment right now, even with how weak she is win rate wise. And then you've got MF, which is probably the most stat checky and versatile ADC that came up into the meta after most of the ADCs got nerfed pre Worlds.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of misfortune in this league. Feels like I haven't run the stats, but it feels like she's pretty close to 100% presence here. So
Yeah,
not surprising it
often
gets taken off.
Yeah, oftentimes he just has a lot of synergy with CC champions, a lot more than most ADCs do, where your positioning has to be super on point. Meanwhile, MF typically gets away with just standing close enough to her team that she can just cast bullet time and be that much more helpful to her team than most other ADCs. And then Aatrox and Sejuani hover. I mean, Aatrox, as an ADC player, obnoxious.
What? You're telling me you don't like a champion that can be taken down to 5% health, then hit the R button, hit Gore Drinker, and suddenly be at 85 again?
Yeah, I mean, I'm personally not the biggest fan of it, where it's just like, well, dang, half the time it's like I play against the Malzahar, I'm like, okay, I gotta rush QSS after the first item. Kind of annoying, it is what it is, but it works. But Aatrox is that champion where it's just like I have to rush executioners after my first item, and just depending on how the fight goes, it doesn't even work as well as I want it to.
Yeah, there's a
It's
reason that
tough
that
spots.
champ is just about 100% pick ban in Worlds. The Sejuani being used as a counter here, that'll be an interesting matchup. The Sejuani, of course, are passive, will get broken pretty easily with the Q spam from the Aatrox, but perhaps that innate tankiness will help balance out that lane. We're also going to see the reworked Syndra here. Have any experience with that, Swift?
From what I've seen, like other players play it like at higher ELOs, I feel like she's definitely better off from where she was before. Like her early game's a bit weaker, and that's something that you can take advantage of. And but you have to watch out for her late game damage, where she's just comes online and deals a lot more damage than she did before, especially if you pilot her well. And in response to that, Cloud has put Brewer on his Echo, which I wholeheartedly approve of. I was of the belief that anytime Brewer picked Echo, we had a higher chance of winning the game just outright, because I feel like the guy plays it really well. And considering Echo's just one of those classic counters to Syndra, she's weaker early now, which is Echo's worst part of the game. And even then, he was known to being able to handle her in side lane, so I'm excited to see how that pans out.
Yeah, and I have gotten some flack in the past for saying that Brewer is the cornerstone of this team. If Brewer does not pop off, this Imagine Cloud team seems to struggle, so putting him on a super comfortable champion here is a pretty good look for Cloud. That being
100%.
said, we haven't seen either bot lane yet. That surprising you at all, or you think it's reasonable that they got pushed this far down in draft?
I feel like it's kind of understandable where, personally, like I said, Imagine Cloud, a lot of their strengths comes from top side of the map and how they can play around it well enough. And then just looking at the meta, I feel like even when you see Worlds, like you mentioned, Aatrox is one of those champions that's like pick or ban pretty much every game. Mid laners, their counter pick isn't as like impactful on them. They can just get to lane and get through lane and scale most of the time. So I feel as though that bot lane just isn't as high of a priority, like at least right now in the meta. It's not like it was before where it was just like Zeri Yumi and Sivir Yumi just 24/7, and then you just had to get the pick out of the way early. But now I think people are more just comfortable picking top side related champs first.
Very fair. I see going for pretty hard lockdown comp, the Amumu on top of the Sejuani and Echo. So if Spectre walks wrong, they're not going to be able to move here in teamfights.
Without a doubt. I mean, like you mentioned, a lot of lockdown. I mean, Echo has his own CC. Amumu just is known for being that long range engage and lockdown that most teams lack in comps nowadays. And then Sejuani's just Sejuani. She's just super tanky, can be in and out of a fight. Love to see it.
And counter engage, here comes the Rel. You know, I thought this champion was dead in the water for so many seasons. She's had a bit of a resurgence recently.
Yeah, like you mentioned, she isn't a champion that's relatively popular. Oftentimes, she just gets thrown off to the wayside. There's a lot of instances where it's like you have to play against certain poke champions or certain supports in the bot lane. It makes it a lot harder to work with. But
Um,
now we see a Silas locked in, and I mean,
uh,
I'm open to it being a different pick, but I mean,
is that a
Silas,
Syndra ADC?
it's possible. It is entirely possible because Syndra, like I said, just needs to get through lane, and Silas does pretty well into Echo.
The only problem with that is they left the ADC open for IC to counter, and a Mumu Tristana is great for punishing early. So this could get
Yeah.
nasty if that was intentional by Spectre, and given how long they're taking to respond on the client side, I think it was.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it. They are lacking lots of DPS, like the later the game goes, but I think what Spectre's angle is here is that you have Aatrox where you most often don't want to fight him. Like you just kind of want to stay away from him, especially when you have the Sejuani as the opposing laner. She typically isn't going to beat him that much unless she takes Ignite. I think their plan is to just go all in for this mid-game team fight comp where it's just like our Syndra and our Silas hit one or two items, Aatrox is at like two items, nobody has that much DPS to take all of us out. Let's just go for team fights then and there rather than just hoping to scale and let an ADC like a Trist or whatever other ADC is available to deal all that damage the later the game goes.
Do you think IC has the chance to counter here with the team comp that they've drafted, or do you think that Spectre is going to be able to roll over them?
Well, I think it might be a bit difficult, but if they can get ahead in the early game, I think they'll be fine. Echo, like I mentioned before, his lane this time, which we're assuming is the Sylas mid, right? It's not going to be as favorable as it was if it was Syndra, but at some point, Syndra is going to be like in a side lane somewhere for Echo to interact with her, and I think he can benefit off of that a lot. And the other thing I'd like to mention is that Tristana is very. I think the key for them winning is if Tristana is able to take out that Aatrox. If that Aatrox is able to fall, then I don't think Spectre has that much in the way of keeping a fight going for that long.
Sure, sure. Just one more question here now that I'm looking at this draft. Do we see triple teleport out of Spectre here? Do they go ahead and give up the early combat summoner for the Syndra in favor of having 3 rotating split pushers?
I mean, it's a likely possibility. I mean, Aatrox doesn't necessarily have the easiest time killing Sejuani. I feel like a lot of ways that you can kind of hold an Aatrox down is just have somebody so tanky that it takes him forever to kill. And I think Sejuani fits that bill. So maybe him taking something like Ignite isn't as favorable and just goes for the TP, like you said. And having triple TP would make it a lot harder for Imagine Cloud to, I guess, be decisive of what fights they want to take, because they'd always have to be aware of like who has TP, who doesn't, who has to match you, and that's where cracks start to form, especially if your communication and execution aren't up to snuff, I guess.
I guess perhaps one of the counters there is the fact that IC has really 3 assassins in the Tristana, Echo, and Graves, so if the Sylas or the Syndra get sent off to a side lane alone, they could find themselves dead quickly.
Yeah.
As an ADC player, does that factor into the calculus here for learning as he's deciding his spells for the Syndra?
Yeah, I mean, there's a possibility where Syndra, I'm assuming, like, okay, she's bot lane, right? Maybe you send her into the mid lane during the mid game so that she doesn't have to be, like, by herself, probably just constantly be hovered around by the Rel and the J4. But if she ever does, like, find herself having to catch sidewave, she has to be aware of that, right? Because Echo, just known for popping people, and Tristana is one of those few ADCs that if you're out of position and not surrounded by people, she can blow you up pretty fast and be out just as quick.
And that does confirm it. We are seeing Sylas in the mid lane for Kush, formerly Fade, and Learning will be piloting the Syndra in the bot lane. It is worth noting that Learning is technically a mid main, so this Syndra might be a little bit more comfortable for him than we expect.
I mean, that makes sense. I would hope that it isn't some random, like, I don't know, Lucian player that just decides to pilot Cinder with 5 games in to start putting it out in the middle of a series. So as long as he's got some sort of practice on it, which I'm assuming he does, then I don't think Spectre has too much to worry about if they can get the leads that they need. Because like I said before, this team would probably need a lead if they want to close out this game.
I would tend to agree given the way that they have structured their team. But unless you have anything else you want to comment on, I think we're going to take a short break here as we wait to load into game.
Sounds good to me, my guy.
Alrighty, folks. Well, when we come back, game number 1 here of day 2.5 of week 6 of season 13 of Black Twitch League. Spectre trying to hold on to their spot at the top couple of levels of the rankings here. Imagine Cloud trying to stay above 500. Which of these teams will find their victory this evening? We'll have the answers right here. Don't go anywhere. One. Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome on to the Rift. The teams have loaded in and are spreading out onto the fields of justice. We have Spectre on the blue side and Imagine Cloud taking the red side. Looks like Spectre's going to spread out as 5. Meanwhile, Imagine Cloud going with the 5-man stack through the bot lane, looking to take advantage of that early Amumu to get a pick here.
I
Doesn't
mean,
look like they're going to
consider.
have any luck, though.
I mean, hey, knowing them, I think they might try to push and go for something. And considering Spectre doesn't have any vision set up around here, they might get caught by surprise. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, Rel is over the wall. The Amumu going to throw the bandage. No, the vision ward goes down and scares Crit away. Perfect response there by the Rel to make sure that nothing goes wrong.
Yeah, just barely. I mean, shout out to Dad, always on his toes, trying to go for something there, but definitely probably for the better that they don't go for something over the wall like that.
Yeah, I think they would have been alright in that case with just a level 1 Syndra and a level 1 Rel, but if there had been a Sylas or an Aatrox there, that could have gotten dangerous very, very fast for this Imagine Cloud squad. And with a team that wants to pop off, getting an early deficit is never the right call.
100%. I mean, like I mentioned before we got into the game, Imagine Cloud definitely wants to scale this game because Echo just pops off the later he gets into the game, and Tristana might be one of the few people that can handle the Aatrox the later the game goes.
Very true. Speaking of pre-game conversations, though, we did notice in load-in that Learning has chosen to forego the teleport, going instead for the cleanse.
Yeah, I mean a lot of bot laners seem to want to take cleanse, and to each their own. A lot of other ADCs like to take exhaust, or there's lots of CC just in the lane in general, and I don't doubt it. I guess I don't feel bad for him not taking TP. I understand.
Very fair. Kush did get the level 2 early, tried to get a little damage down onto Guru, but didn't quite have the angle. So the Echo, still at about half health, has a charge left on that corrupting pot. So we'll continue to just farm up this lane. Lake going in a little bit though. We'll try to slowly push this Sej out of lane at just a Doran shield. The Boar Rider is not quite as tanky as she will be in about 15 minutes.
Yeah, the early game is definitely gonna be a bit tough for the Sejuani, especially once Aatrox hits level 4. His damage on his Q just goes up quite a bit every time he levels up with his ability, and it's gonna be just a lot harder for her to interact in the lane. So right now is one of the few times she kind of matches up with him until, like you mentioned, she gets extremely tanky.
Lake manages to cancel the charge here. Just Relish almost out of mana, under 150 health, but the stun comes out. 100 health now for Just Relish. The flash forward from Lake and first blood under the turret. The Aatrox picks up the Sejuani.
I mean, hey, shout out to the Aatrox. Like I said, I mean, he almost got level 4. He was pretty close, but when he lands that pullback, especially after Relish used his charge, he had nowhere to go, and he took full advantage of that. Now, once he resets, he's going to come back pretty strong.
Yeah, we do see some aggression here in the bot lane, though. Grease trying to find an angle, but a well-placed ward by Crit will scare away the Graves. Learning, though, getting engaged on. The bandage toss comes out. Here comes the rocket jump from Taste Green Beans, but gets knocked up by the Rel. Rel now still tanking up so much damage and refusing to take much at all. All that fighting and only down to half health. Meanwhile, Taste Green Beans down under 300 health herself. Learning gonna go in, but misses the stun. But flash forward from Crit, the Ignite goes down.
Ooh.
Taste Green Beans uses the exhaust, but it's not enough. Crit picks up one, and now Dr. Dad is on the wrong side of this fight. Here comes Grease to try and put down enough damage. Learning flashes away, has been ignited, so he's under 100 health. A flash forward from Green Bean, or from Dr. Dad, rather. The stun comes out from Rel, but Learning is on the wrong side of this fight. Will have to execute the turret. No, Grease picks it up with a flash Q.
Yeah, I mean, it's a one-for-one trade, but it's definitely in the favor of the side of Spectre. It's just they use so much to get away from the Syndra, or just to catch up to her in the first place, right? Where it's like Dad blew both of his sums, Taste Green Beans had to use Exhaust, and then on top of that, Grease had to flash just to secure the kill. Is definitely a rough spot, but we'll see how they take advantage of that.
Yeah, however, on the side of Spectre, the kill went over to Crit. Meanwhile, Grease got the kill for the side of Imagine Cloud, so the gold distribution here a little bit more favorable for IC, perhaps.
Yeah, there's definitely an argument to be had there. And speaking
Oh,
of,
Grease is going to get
oh,
found out here, gets stunned up by Crit. Now under half health already. Swagasm not taking any damage at all. Kush is here. The chains connect over the wall, and Kush gets the kill. Now Gruer on the wrong side of the wall as well. Maybe in trouble. Swagasm under 300 health forces the flash out of Gruer, but with Learning being entirely alone, Taste Green Beans goes in with the rocket jump, will immediately get Scatter the Weak away. Kush going back in with the chains, forced to flash out, but just Relish under 100 health will fall. Dr. Dad and Gruer now trying to turn this fight around. Will get one onto Swagasm. But Kush still here over the wall, looking to rejoin this fight. Will go back in on Gruer. The Kingslayer keeps him so healthy, and Gruer is going to fall.
yeah, pretty bloody fight that started off okay, having to force like a couple flashes off of the side of Spectre, but once the fight just kept going extended, Silas just benefits off of that so much, and with Swagasm having Conqueror and nobody else on the side of IC having it, it just benefits them the longer that fight went.
And that entire time, Aatrox did not join that fight. Sejuani roamed all the way down to join that fight. So Lake has created a 16 CS and 2 turret plate gap in the top lane, contributing to 1,000 gold lead already. This Aatrox is spiraling out of control so quickly here, Swift.
100%. I mean, they're doing what they need to do. Like I mentioned, Spectre has to come into this game firing on all cylinders, try to get ahead of their individual lanes. And for right now, like for what it's worth, they're doing just that. Like you mentioned, Aatrox being that much gold up, Silas up a kill, technically like has 2 kills right up on the Echo, and bot lane isn't in a bad spot. Yeah, all your gold's on your support, but if Syndra's just sits there and is not really threatened, then you don't really need all that much gold on her.
Speaking of threatened, Dr. Dad goes for the bandage toss, gets scattered away, but here comes Grease. Can enough damage come down onto Learning? Looks like the answer is going to be no, as Crit has scared away the Tristana. Now comes Swagasm and Kush, followed by Gruer here. Kush is going to be first on the scene. The stun comes out. However, Kush is in trouble, will fall first, going down to Dr. Dad, but all these members of IC are so low. Dr. Dad will fall next, perhaps. No, the last auto attack comes through. The Disco Ignite will secure it. But Crit and Swagasm both fall, and the ultimate from the graves picks off Learning. On the top side, though, Lake and Just Relish are continuing to fight. The Ignite... No, sorry, that is the Bramble Vest that is putting out the grievous wounds here. Lake puts down a lot of damage, but doesn't get the kill, and that has equalized the game here for Imagine Cloud.
Yeah, that was a pretty solid start of the fight where we saw Taste Green Beans going in and chunking out Learning, pretty much forcing him out of the fight. And then even after Learning was chunked out, it seems as though Spectre wanted to keep that fight going, and it was just a lot to their detriment. And as you saw, I'm just like kind of hovering. I'm like, is there a fight? There might be.
Yeah, it felt like a bit of an overextension there by Kush, going all in into 3 members there just because he had the Curse of the Sad Mummy with that hijack. Felt like he was a little bit too desperate to get that off, and instead paid for it pretty badly.
Yeah, I mean, to his credit, like he landed it onto 2 people, which was pretty solid, and then gave him decent follow up. But I feel as though, like you mentioned, the fight just was way too far out. Like Tristana was able to get a reset, get out scot free, and if the only way that you get a kill in that is because of a Disco Ignite coming out from Crit, then it's pretty safe to say that you guys went a bit too far, or biting off a bit more than you can chew.
And the
But
gold distribution
yeah.
for Spectre in this game is a little bit abysmal. 3 kills over to the Rel already. That's 50% of the ones they've gotten so far. That's a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah, and Rel isn't going to be dealing much damage, where it's fine having a kill or maybe even two on the support early. I've heard arguments where it's just like, oh, you want the supports to have more impact or come online a bit sooner since they don't really get that much gold in the first place. But like I mentioned, not being able to even get damage out in fights is just gonna be that much worse off for you. That role can take as many hits as she wants from that Graves or that Triss, but if you can't get a kill on anybody else, then it's not really much of a point.
And we're going to have to see if that gold distribution hurts Spectre here, as their laners are relatively just a bit behind where they could be if these kills had gone on to them. Brewer trying to find the engage onto Kush, gets him down to about 3/4 health with a single trade, so the Silas starting to take some serious poke from the Echo here.
Yeah, once Echo starts getting up some AP, his damage just increases just so much, and it makes his trading a lot more potent. Like compared to the early game where Silas kind of just beats him up off of base stats alone, makes it a lot harder for him to trade back and forth. But now that the gold lead is kind of nearly evened out, the trading is not nearly as bad.
Well, the gold has evened out, however, Swagasm just picked up the Rift Herald. So that's about 400 gold worth of swing sitting in his pocket wherever he chooses to put that.
Yeah, and it seems like he was trying to look mid lane, but he did get spotted out by the control ward. I'm assuming that Brewer or Grease placed. It seems like he's going down bot side. Might see
Yeah,
something in a couple minutes.
Grease is here. The flash forward from Dr. Dad to hit the Curse of the Sad Mummy only lands onto one, but Crit is in trouble. Will fall to Taste Green Beans. However, that's not the target they wanted. So the Syndra will still be alive. Do Grease, Taste Green Bean, and Dr. Dad go harder on here? They don't know that Swagasm is in the area. Looks like they're going to continue this fight.
Ooh.
Ooh, perhaps. Taste Green Beans under half health, forced to rocket jump away. And it looks like Imagine Cloud has made the correct decision to pull out of this fight for now.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely going to be an awkward situation where you don't have that Amumu ulti and there's not that much lockdown on either Learning or Swagasm if they were to get hit. So
Oh,
definitely
perhaps
good
the
for them.
fight restarting here. Lake getting stunned up in the top side will be
Ooh.
forced to use that World Ender. The Ignite ticking will not be enough. Scatter the Weak from Learning will save him from Grease for now, as Crit going in, trying to find Grease, will get the stun up, but Swagasm so far away from this fight still. Flashing forward, does not land the
Ooh.
Flag Drag Flash, but will use the Cataclysm. Grease is forced to flash away, and too many turret shots means that Swagasm has already fallen. Now Kush diving under the turret will be in trouble himself. Crit trying to lock up Grease for enough damage. Yes, but he picks up the kill once again. Kush going very deep. Will get the shutdown onto Taste Green Beans.
Ooh.
However, does fall to Dr. Dad. It's just Dr. Dad left to defend this turret, and Learning's going to go in to try and find it. The Scatter the Weak lands the toss, but there's no more damage. Just auto attacks for the Syndra. Will eventually pick it up.
Well, then,
What did I just watch, Swift?
I mean, at the start of the fight, it definitely looked bad for Spectre. I was just sitting there thinking, don't tell me this is going to be another instance where they are just overextending into a tower not just to get nothing out of it. But I mean, it seems as though that Imagine Cloud kind of handshook it and decided, let's just take the fight anyway, and stepped out of the turret range just long enough for Spectre to take advantage of that, and this time around had more than enough damage to clear them out and even out the end of that fight.
Speaking of fighting here, Lake going in pretty hard onto Just Relish. Just Relish has only just teleported back in and found himself under a quarter health. The Aatrox, when there's no Ignite around, is a little bit scary.
Yeah, because it's a really tough spot to be in where Aatrox is just that. Oh,
Oh, maybe gonna find the kill here. The flash forward, one last auto attack will do it, and Lake gets the kill. Meanwhile, on the bot
cool.
side, looks like these teams are gonna fight over Dragon. Dr. Dad looking to go in. Looks like that's going to be the end of that fight. The Echo W just barely scaring away these players, but Imagine Cloud might be starting up the Drake here and looking to draw out a fight from blue team. The Rift Herald goes down into the
Ooh.
mid lane, Learning trying to put some damage down on Taste Green Beans. The Scatter of the Weak will come out. Taste Green Beans now under half health, but the
Ooh.
ultimate is not quite enough. It doesn't have that execute quite yet, so the Tristana will survive.
Yeah, Triss staying alive just barely. I mean, probably thanks to the MR that they have. But First Dragon going over to Imagine Cloud, it is quite late. So if they were to play for a soul, like WinCon, it would definitely take a lot longer than usual for them to get to that point. And going back to the fight top side, I mean, we're just looking at top. The CS lead is massive at this point, and if I'm Imagine Cloud. I'm just scared for the ensuing fight that's going to happen at second or at the very least third dragon
Hey,
with
Swift.
this Aatrox.
Swift, have you checked what the gold lead itself actually is? If you
All right,
haven't, don't. I want you to
I'm
guess.
okay. Uh, I'm gonna guess 3K. I'm gonna guess 3K.
You are right on the nose. It is 2,900 gold right now.
Dang, I'm good.
Just Relish only has 3,500, so Lake is nearly doubling the Sejuani at this point. The Aatrox is an absolute disaster area in the top lane. Brewer going in onto Kush though, uses that Chrono Shift to hit the W. Oh no, the Death Bush has been found out in the bot lane by the sweeper. Kush managing to get away. Looks like the stun is not quite enough, and Grease can't get there in time, especially now that Lake is there. That fight is too dangerous for Grease to continue. And with the death
Yeah.
fall of J4 and Rel moving up through the river, Grease and Brewer are forced to play a little bit careful. Swagasm is actually going to go for the invade here. It might not be the right decision, but Learning has joined the fight. Grease under half health. The ult from Dr. Dad misses completely, but without Kush or Lake here, this fight is going horribly for Spectre, as Learning does fall as well. Taste Green Beans down to about 600 health, but does not die, so that's a 2 for 0 here for Imagine Cloud after the overextension by Swagasm.
Yeah, Swagasm definitely just going for a lot more than he probably should. I mean, he just witnessed Grease go from mid, from top to bot. He knows that he's on the bot side of his map, and if he looked at his scoreboard, he would have saw that you mentioned. He's 2 levels down.
Kush may be in trouble here. The ultimate comes out. No, sorry, just the E coming out from the Sej to lock up Kush. Will not be enough, though. The Sej does not have hardly any damage, being so far behind. Turret will fall in the bot lane, though, so a little something for Imagine Cloud.
Yeah, even though that they're behind, still like a lot of that gold is on the Aatrox at the moment. You're still like not in a horrible spot. They're keeping this game pretty close. They have, if they get the second drag, it's going to be a lot more feasible for them to play for the soul condition. So that's definitely something that they have to look out for, especially since they're pretty much giving up this next Rift Herald.
The only problem here, Swift, is we've seen it in Worlds. We've seen it in Worlds a lot. A fed Aatrox wins games. Doesn't matter what's going on in the rest of the map. A fed Aatrox just takes over. We might see a fight here over the second Rift Herald, though. 4 members of IC moving in. Sejuani not far behind. Just going to be an explosive charge placed, an explosive charge eaten, and that's going to be the end of that.
Yeah, not too much in the way of action, at least that time around. Has been quite a action-packed game, if I were to say anything. I mean, it's like 21 kills. We're not even at the 21-minute mark. They've definitely been looking for plays.
Uh-oh, Dr. Dad may be in trouble here. Kush coming out from the bush. The stun from the Rel to help out this fight, but Brewer is here to keep his ADC. A Mumu ADC would be a choice. His support safe.
I mean, yeah, shout out to Kush. He was able to get quite a bit of damage out onto Dad, but Dad does have his mythic finish, so he's quite tanky of a mummy. So, not too much in the way of picks right now, but all things considered, I think the side of Spectre definitely wants to take the resets now, or get whatever they need, and get prep for this next fight that might happen at Drag.
Speaking of fights, looked like Kush was looking for one, but the Abscond Abduct did not connect. And now Swagasm might be the one in trouble, as both Taste Green Beans and Grease are looping around. Grease, man, you gotta be careful where you walk. There's so much lockdown, single target lockdown that is, on the side of Spectre here. Will think better of his decision. And with 20 seconds to Drake, it looks like this is all but Spectre's.
Yeah, Spectre does have the first move on it. We do see that Lake is there. They
Teleport's
just called
coming
down
down.
the TPs.
Echo going into the bot lane. Sejuani going into the jungle. Kush will be playing spoiler here. Has the Amumu ult. Let's see what happens. This fight is still pretty split, but it looks like IC wants to reconvene and will come together just below the blue buff here to try and force their way into River. Kush going in, will get the stun onto 3 members, goes all the way back onto Taste Green Beans, but the Cataclysm completely misses. Dr. Dad so low, the flash forward from Lake will get one more. The Echo falls, just Relish is going to fall as well, and Grease over the wall will die. The rocket jump from Taste Green Beans will keep him alive, but that is a 4 for 1 here, and with IC routed, even with Swagasm dead, that's going to be a Drake given over to Spectre.
All right. I mean, even though we were play-by-playing that entire fight, all I saw was an Aatrox just flash onto two people, and the Mumu ult hitting three, and then it was just. At a certain point, I just kind of closed my eyes and waited for all the Aatrox like reset sound effects to kick in, and I'm just like, yep, okay.
Aatrox has hit the Aatrox moment, ladies and gentlemen, and that's the end of this game.
Yeah, I mean, all things considered, Imagine Cloud kind of got caught out in a weird spot. That Mumu ulti coming out from Silas was really good, and then Lake just being able to free hit. Nobody was able to focus him. By the time Tristana was even in range of hitting him, nobody has executioners. He is just resetting upon resetting, and it seems as though that oftentimes, by the time you got executioners to that Aatrox, it's already a little too late.
Brewer, my friend, you can't kill the Aatrox. You can annoy the Aatrox, but you cannot kill the Aatrox. Not like that.
Yeah, it is truly a sad sight to see. I mean, I don't even want to look at the gold. Like I said, I haven't looked at it since I've guessed that first time around. But yeah, that's a death dance and then some.
Uh, do we want to take another guess here? The folks on
All
stream
right,
can see it right now.
all right, bet. I'm gonna guess. I'm not looking. I'm guessing the difference between him and Sejuani, right?
Correct.
All right, I'm gonna guess. It has to be like 4.5k or something.
You are incredibly close, and you will probably be correct after he clears this wave in the top side. It is currently 4,300.
Bruh, no, okay, I'm kind of clean. I'm kind of clean. Okay.
Yeah, it's almost like you played this game for a while and you know what items cost or something. Wild.
No way. For real?
Yeah, man, it's wild.
That's crazy.
All jokes aside, though, that fight nearly went so differently because Kush nearly got deleted before he could pop the Amumu ult. But we have another fight here. Swagasm going a little bit too hard, will be forced to flag and drag out, but the ultimate from Greece just barely picks him off. Swagasm falling for the 6th time this game. And this J4 is not having the greatest of experiences here. Learning, gonna try and steal away the crab. Will in fact do so.
Yeah, Swagasm has been around to make some plays, but there have been just as many moments where he's gotten caught or has not put his team in the best of positions.
And it's culminating here with a 4-man invade by Imagine Cloud. They're just gonna get a blue buff, not much more. But they might be thinking, are they thinking of Baron here? No, it looks like they're gonna think better of that.
Yeah, the waves are in the best of spots. I mean, Coach does have TP available to him if he ever wants to take a fight. He is really low, though, so you'd probably have to base beforehand. But the waves for Imagine Cloud are just not in the best of spots if they were to look for Baron at the moment.
Speaking of bad spots, so Lake being engaged upon by Grease here will be forced to pop the World Ender, but Taste Green Beans on the way as well. Can Lake pick off Grease? Looks like the answer is going to be no. An 800 gold shutdown goes over to the Graves. However, Echo may be in trouble himself using the Chrono Shift to get out. Can Kush find the angle here of the Abscond Duct? Looks like he's going to try and take a minion taxi as Swagasm going to cut off this Echo. And with the Chrono Shift already used, Kush is going to take that kill. However, that showed all 4 members on the bot side of the map, and unless this TP can manage to stop them, it looks like IC might have secured themselves a Baron here. Kush going in. Will he find the angle? Looks like the answer is going to be no, so Baron is secured. However, can Kush save enough time here? The stopwatch going down, and here comes the rest of Spectre. The Scout of the Week only lands onto one. Dr. Dad flashing forward, forces the cleanse out of learning, but here comes the Rel. Dr. Dad is dead. Just Relish will follow. Taste Green Beans is going to die as well. Grease is the only member left with Baron. Can Swagasm and Crick pick him off? The damage coming out onto both of these members, and it looks like Grease is going to get out here. No, Lake has joined the fight to teleport in, and this Baron is going to be gone. 5 members slain, and the Baron buff is dead. What?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a weird spot to be in for a Mountain Cloud where it's like they secure the Baron, but I feel though that they got a bit cocky with how much time that they had left. I would have thought that maybe they try to look for the Silas and pick him off then, but they waited until after they got Baron and then chose to take the fight with him there and flashed in just like wanting to take fight then and now, and I feel like that really is what bit them there. Where it just seemed to be like, okay, nobody else but Silas is at this Baron. This should be more or less free, you know?
Yeah, and absolutely credit to Kush there. Had the choice between going in to try and steal the Baron or buying enough time for his team to make the Baron take Worthless. Chose to delay, chose to make sure that IC couldn't get backs off and that they would try to kill him instead. And he did die. Don't get me wrong. He's
Hmm.
dead. He was absolutely dead there. But with the stopwatch, with the healing from Kingslayer, he bought just enough time for learning and crit and swagasm to get there and take the 3v4 and more or less win the 3v4, although they did need Lake's help at the end. And now we're going to see yet another fight here over the Earth Drake. This would only be the second Drake for either team, so it's not particularly valuable. However, crit going in, being zoned by just Relish, and it was stolen by Lake on the backside
Oh.
of the fight. Oh my gosh, the World Ender coming in. Lake has fallen, and now the fight. A disaster for Spectre as 4 members have fallen in the blink of an eye. Kush somehow is the only member still standing. And I think that's going to lose them at least one, probably 2 mid turrets here, unless Kush can manage a massive base defense just alone against 5 really healthy members of Imagine Cloud. Looks like he's going to give up the second turret as well, but the inhibitor will survive.
And yeah, I mean, shout out to Lake for being able to steal that dragon, but I think that's what cost them their potential of actually winning that fight, where him having to be on the complete opposite side of where the fight was starting to take place and taking so long to get there to
Well,
actually deal
perhaps I stand
damage,
corrected. The
just kind
inhibitor is
of
going to
stopped them.
fall here, and now
Oh,
Kush in trouble as just Relish and Grease going very deep, but Learning has joined the fight. One member has fallen.
oh,
Brewer on the backside using the Chrono Shift will manage to pick off the Syndra, but does fall to Swagasm at the end. Now Kush going back in, misses the Abscond Abduct. Here comes Lake. The World Ender is alive. Meanwhile, Swagasm flashing forward to try and find the Tristana will not manage it, so Dr. Dad falls. And we're still even on kills, Swift, and there are 44 of them at 25 minutes. This has been an absolute massacre back and forth.
yeah, it's been, like you said, it's literally just been a back and forth the entire game. The gold lead, I swear, hasn't gone past like 3 or 4K maybe. Like I haven't been keeping tabs on it the entire time, but half the time I look at it, it's only like 1,000, maybe 2,000 gold difference between either of the teams, and they just keep handing it over back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah, this needle refusing to move. And with the state of the game, it really doesn't feel like either team has a particular advantage here. The inhibitor turret is open in mid lane for IC, but so many lanes constantly in better positions for Spectre. It's, this game is still a toss-up, Swift.
I mean, yeah, where it's just like we're 26 near 27 minutes into the game, right? Dragon isn't spawning for another 2.5 minutes. You're telling me if Spectre gets this dragon, Soul isn't coming in till like at least like 34, 35 minutes into this game. And that's a lot of time to tick. So neither team is really in a spot to be like, yeah, we can just play for this.
Yeah, we can play for Baron, said Icy, and then they immediately all died from Baron. We can play for
Hmm.
Drake, says Spectre, and then immediately all died for Drake. It feels like the play here is just not to play at this point. Let the other team make the first move and then just collapse on them.
Yeah, it's a
Speaking of
super weird
collapsing,
spot.
hello Kush, you're in a bad position as Brewer and Grease looking for the angle. Looks like the Hextech Rocket Belt will... Was that Rocket Belt? No, that was Abscond
Yeah.
Abduct.
Oh. I know Echo used the rocket belt, but probably Kush using a Scondive Duck to get out of there.
They have such similar animations, it's so hard to tell sometimes.
I mean, it'd be like that. I mean, especially when one cast, you hear it and it's just like, all right, we'll just assume it was used. But
Somebody used an ability as Swagasm and Grease gonna find each other here. Dr. Dad and Taste Green Beans are close. Over the wall comes Dr.
oh,
Dad, gets the stun onto 2. Swagasm can't get over the wall, and Kush trying to use that stopwatch to buy enough time. The ultimate from the Amumu coming down onto 3, but it does not matter. Kush is
oof.
dead. And with that, IC now has control over Baron, which is gonna spawn in about 25 seconds. Swagasm won't be there in time.
Yeah, him being caught out there was really tough. I mean, we did, at least I assume, that Swagasm was kind of aware that Graves was in the vicinity. I mean, he was just clearing out the ward. I didn't see that much reason for him to kind of take control of that bush or be there in the first place. And that's just another instance of where him getting caught out really cost his team, at least at this moment in time.
Yeah, we're gonna take a look here. IC taking the Baron for the second time this game. might be able to use it for the first time. Just Relish
Hmm.
being punished on the bot side by Lake. Looks like Spectre will get this bot tier 2 in compensation. Can
Yeah,
they set up for Drake, though?
I mean that's the hope, right? Where it's like you have three people here, you have Swagasm off of a respawn, and you do have Kush who's making his way there, but has TP available. Getting that tower is definitely the heads-up play, considering they don't have Baron, but we might see a fight here.
Crit managing to get the stun onto 3. Lake has popped the World Ender and will be going hard, but gets immediately stunned up by the Sejuani and will not manage to find anyone. The Rel has fallen as well, as has the J4. It's just Kush and Learning left, and there's not going to be enough. The Rocket Belt coming over, or the Rocket Jump coming over from T-Screen Mean, trying to find Kush. The Chrono Shift used, stolen from the Echo, will not be enough, and Gruer flashing forward with the E will manage to secure the final kill. That's another 5-for-0 fight for Imagine Cloud, and that might be the game here.
It's definitely a possibility. I mean, the dragon is available, but they're not seeming to go for it. They want to just push an attempt for the end here. And I mean, you do have the like 20-second to 30-second death timers. It's entirely possible.
However, if you watch the TES GAM match last night, or the night before rather, you'd see that this is never a guarantee. Crit trying to buy enough time for folks to come back alive. The Rel will fall and Swagasm does not make it in time. And Imagine Cloud picking up first blood in this match. Bit of a surprise, or is this about what you expected?
I mean, I've sort of expected it, right? Where I mentioned earlier on, where it's like, okay, Spectre has to have a lead if they have a chance at winning this game. But the later the game goes, the champions on the side of Imagine Cloud just benefit of all this extra time spent. And when you just look at the scoreboard at the end of the game, like who are probably the better performing players? The Tristana, the Graves, and the Echo. And all of those champions, the longer the game goes, it's just better for them.
Yeah, absolutely. It got bloodier and bloodier as the game went on, and the fights kept tipping further and further into IC's favor. We're going to step aside for just a couple of minutes here, because it looks like these teams are about ready to get into game 2, and we want to let our voices rest up, because if those next games go as bloody as this one is, we're going to need all the breath we can get. Don't go anywhere, folks, but when we come back, game 2 between these two teams. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Draft for game number 2 here. After IC managed to pull out the game 1 victory, we might have a series on our hands. Spectre, of course, would be the team I would have predicted to win in the long run since they are near the top of the power rankings, but IC making a statement in the first game, trying to carry that momentum. For those of you who are just joining, I am your host, Aulz, and I am joined on the desk by former IC player SwiftDuelist. What does IC do in game 2? Do they pull out the same stuff here, Swift?
I mean, I would hope. It seems oftentimes, at least today and the past couple weeks, we've just always been solid at getting that first game win. And I think possibly a reason why we don't win the next couple of games and close out series is we don't really stick to what we play in the first game. Maybe you have to just adapt too much or whatever, right? But I mean, just looking at Spectre, looking at the draft right now, I mean, they're already trying to make sure that IC doesn't run the same comp as they're already banning away the Echo from Guru at this point.
Yeah, does Spectre, do you think, pivot back to something a little bit more standard? No more Syndra ADC here?
I think that's the hope, because even though the Syndra got some kills here and there, by the end of the game, it was just really hard for the Syndra to position. I'm assuming the way that Spectre wanted to, and there just wasn't enough consistent damage coming out from them by the time the game got past the 25-minute mark, I would say.
What kind of changes do you expect Spectre to make then? Are they going to continue with the early game focus? Well, perhaps not, as the Aatrox is in fact taken away here.
Yeah, I mean, you do have Relish up in the top lane, and he plays a bunch of Aatrox to the point where you kind of get sick of it, where he's just like, come on, man, like this champion, and we already know it's obnoxiously like strong, but to that account, he picks it up first, not complaining about it, and then Fiora hover, and it's locked in. I mean, I'm hyped.
Now,
The champion that I hate the most in the meta right now, and the champion that I probably have the most mastery on, I'm here for it.
You know, I am a top lane main, but I play tanks, so I have absolutely no idea how this matchup breaks down. You have any insight for us here?
Don't worry, let me hit it with you. I mean, I probably across all of my accounts, I got 1,000,000 mastery points on Fiora. I know, disgusting
Wow.
player. Like, it is what it is.
I don't think I can
But
sit on this desk with you anymore, man.
my dude's standing like, he's like, all right, I got a 20-foot pole. I'm gonna need a longer one.
I say
But
that I've got 3 accounts with Teemo Mastery 7, so maybe I can't talk.
yeah, I have not touched a single game of Teemo in my life, so I don't know what to tell you. But but yeah, I mean, I have quite a bit of insight into the matchup. It's definitely Fiora favored just because of how much mobility she has, and I'd say the only couple chances that Aatrox really has advantages against her in the game, at least in the early game, would be like at level 4, and then maybe at level 6 if he's able to get Fiora low enough and not give her all of her ultimate vitals.
Very fair. Looks like the Aatrox so far, the only thing being swapped out for IC. Of course, they won't have the Echo in the mid lane, but the Graves and the Amumu both making a reappearance here for likely Grease and Dr. Dad, respectively.
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Dad, loving to play the Amumu, really strong pick, not much that I can complain about it, and Grease on the Graves, we saw at one point in the game, even though that Swagasm had contributed to his team quite well, had a good number of assists, and had a decent bit of farm, he was still at one point down 2 levels against Grease. So Grease definitely knows how to pilot that champion, make it work how it's intended to, and get advantages of it, like with it, no matter what. So definitely good to see that picked up.
Meanwhile, for Spectre, we see some interesting picks to round out the draft. The Sejuani going into the jungle here for Swagasm, and learning, going ahead and in the first half of draft, picking up the Kai'Sa.
Yeah, Kai'Sa is... I don't mind. I feel like she's in a better spot in the meta than she was, say, a couple patches ago, especially with a lot of the ADCs being nerfed. But into the comp that IC currently has, it's definitely going to be interesting to play around, because Kai'Sa already just, whenever she wants to take a fight with the Mumu around, she's in range of getting ulted by him. Graves is just the bane of most ADC's existence with that smoke screen, and Aatrox, you just kind of have to go into him, and that's what Kai'Sa wants to do, is go into her, and like into her enemies. So it's really a really going to be interesting to see how Learning pilots this throughout this game.
It is worth noting that the ultimate from the Kaisa is not unstoppable. So a Curse of the Sad Mummy can pluck the Kaisa out of the air.
Yeah, it is one of the more depressing moments of playing Kaisa where it's just like, yeah, I can just ult to this side of the map. It'll be fine. And then a random knockup from like Blitzcrank hits you, or somebody stuns you, or some CC gets casted that you were trying to dodge, and it's just like, well, now I'm just depressed.
One of my friends was so proud of himself for missing a hook on a Cho'Gath, a 10-stack Cho'Gath, by the way, a pretty hard target to miss, and then picking a Kaisa out of the air to save one of his allies. He was like, yeah, I definitely intended to do that. So,
my God, yeah. I believe it. Even
the
coming
energy
from you.
is there. Wait. I heard that.
Hey, all I'm saying is it seems like there was a bit of bias on that account, but I still believe him, okay?
Well, I have the video of it, so.
Alright, we might have to review that one later. But
yeah,
speaking of reviewing, I mean, so far in the draft, Alistar, I don't mind. It can work well with the Kaisa, where they both kind of just want to go in and take as long of a fight as they can, and he's no stranger to be able to disengage. Definitely going to be interesting how that matches up with the Amumu, but now we've got Gruer on the Victor, which I very much approve of, so I'm going to be excited to see it as well.
Once again, Gruer on a hyper carry. I do want to go back to this Alistar, though, since you can headbutt Amumu out of the bandage toss. So there will be a bit of pressure on Crit to always have his hand over that W button.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is definitely going to be on him to make this lane work. Kaisa having to play against Jinx now. Jinx is one of those champions where I feel like she fell out of the meta and just only got slightly buffed, and I still feel like she's like viable enough, but just not too many people pick her. And I feel like in this game she can probably get away with it because a lot of things are short range, and then they say, okay, Syndra, you can play around it. It's a lot easier to play around a Syndra than it is a Xerath if they're good at it. So
that Scatter the
I feel
Weak
like
is
Jinx is pretty good.
Pretty long range though, and if Kush can use it as well as Learning did throughout that game 1, the Jinx might have trouble staying right at the edge there.
Maybe a bit, but hey, all I'm saying is this is a pretty free QSS game. I mean, it's just like you can QSS the Scatter the Weak, you can QSS the Sejuani ulti if that hits you somehow, and then you got, if Alistar decides to go on top of you for a year, you got that at least. So I mean, there's at least ways for Jinx to play around it. I swear, whenever you play around a Xerath that's actually good, it's like, okay, am I just allowed to participate in this fight or not?
That's very fair. However, IC is going to have to be careful to walk through their jungle very, very cautiously and keep their wards up, because an Alistar Hex Flash over the wall, a Syndra Scatter the Weak over the wall, a Sejuani ult, or even a Fiora lunge over the wall could spell doom for an exposed Jinx or Victor here, even in the late game. And without either of those members, the teamfight going to swing even more heavily into Spectre's favor.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's one thing that Spectre isn't lacking, it's mobility. I mean, you've got Sejuani with the charge, Fiora already one of the more nimble top laner fighters that you can pick, and then Kaisa is just known for being able to kite around and or use her ultimate again on top of people. So definitely going to be keeping our eye around that, because it seems as though IC, considering everything that they've picked, is going for a pretty standard comp, at least from what they're used to playing. It's a jungler that has some sort of presence in the early game, has decent synergy with their mid laner, and they can look for plays or skirmishes in the early game. And with an Aatrox and a Victor and an Amumu, I think you can definitely play around that.
Absolutely. For those of you in Twitch chat, we are returning to something that we haven't used in a bit of a while, channel points predictions. So if you've got some of those channel points and you want to go ahead and place your bets now, I know we've got some pretty big fans in the chat of both teams, so go ahead and put those points onto these guys. Show your support as we wait for these teams to be ready to hop into client draft. I think we are just waiting on one member to get back, so it'll be just a few minutes.
Indeed, but hey, if speaking of those channel points, if everybody wants a prediction, my prediction is going to be IC. Totally not biased. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But I like looking at these drafts. I still feel that IC has the advantage just because they have a lot of ways to play the game out. Where it's just like you have that early game presence with Aatrox and Amumu and potentially Graves, depending on where he's at. And then you just have that late game insurance with that Victor, with that Jinx, and I think it's gonna take a lot from the side of Spectre to overcome what I feel is like a slight bit of a comp difference.
They say they're ready. I do not think they are ready. All right, we might be
They might
getting
be
into
ready
client
slowly
drafts
but
here.
surely.
Perhaps waiting on someone who's too busy talking to get into lobby.
I mean, hey, if they need me to talk, I got them. But hey, it'd definitely be nice if they would start anytime soon. But we'll be chilling.
Yeah, we got plenty to talk about. We can talk about Jinx mechanics. Spreading out those kills so you get the perfect amount of get excited off of each one.
100%. I mean, like considering how bloody that first game was, right? Like we called it out. It was like 44 kills at like 25 minutes or something like that, if I remember correctly. Lots of kills back and forth. If Taste of Green Beans is in any of those with that get excited passive, I feel like it's going to be a lot easier for them to take over those early game skirmishes that just seem to always go back and forth between both teams.
Yeah, early game will once again probably be the deciding factor, with champs like Victor and Jinx that really want to scale up to late, and even folks like the Kaisa and Syndra who are a little bit more comfortable once they reach level 9, level 11, level 13. A couple of early picks coming out from the jungle or even just in lane could swing this one way or another pretty hard.
Yeah, it's definitely something to look out for. Even on the side of Spectre, the Fiora Sejuani combo is nothing to scoff at. Being able to get that passive onto Aatrox extremely quickly will definitely should be at least in Relish's mind with how he plays the lane, where it's just like, okay, one, you already have a disadvantage in that lane matchup alone, but now you got to worry about a synergy in the jungle that is just primed and ready to take somebody like you off the map.
Speaking of jungle, where do you expect Grease and Swagasm to be focusing?
I mean, let's see, if I'm Greece, I'm probably hovering topside because I'm gonna assume that Swagasm wants to play towards that side of the map. If he's not playing towards there, then maybe bot lane. But I feel like it's gonna be pretty hard to force an engage onto the Jinx with an Amumu standing around her. But might need a flash or two to get that done.
Yeah, I mean, early game Victor is pretty vulnerable. Does Syndra have enough damage to follow up on that?
I think it's possible, but I definitely think Victor would have to be losing a bit of HP. It's not as something where it's just like he's gonna get 100 to 0'd just off of the gank. It's definitely gonna take a bit more, and I think part of that is just how the Syndra rework changed her damage ever so slightly, where her early game just isn't as impressive as it used to be. Is like I think the famous saying is, "Oh, once she got Sork shoes in Lost Chapter, all it took was like one combo, and she can one shot you by herself, and then add a jungler in there, it'd be pretty easy to get something off."
Not so much anymore. Gotta wait until you get that passive fully stacked up and you get the 15% health execute on the ultimate. Then it becomes pretty dangerous.
That's a pretty dangerous. When I first read that, I was like, okay then, we're getting executes for everybody nowadays. We're just giving it to people left and right.
Yeah, I'm just waiting until Soraka ult executes enemies. If you are standing within 1,000 units of an ally that gets healed while under 40% health, you are immediately executed no matter your health bar. I see nothing wrong with that.
See nothing wrong with it,
And that's
but I
not just
mean,
because my secondary role is support.
totally isn't. I've never heard of a caster being biased ever in my life.
Role bias? Not me. Never me.
No shot.
That being said, anything else you want to bring up regarding this match before we step aside quickly?
I mean, the only thing I gotta say is, top lane. I hope one of them buys executioners, and then, yeah, executioners hopefully someday.
800 gold. Whole lot more valuable than the Quicksilver Sash in lanes like this. We'll see how it works out. Game number 2 here. Does Imagine Cloud pull out the 2-0 or does Spectre take us to game 3? We'll have the answers right here, so don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back. One. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back onto the Rift and back for game number 2. We have Imagine Cloud on the blue side and Spectre trying to stay alive in this match on the red. Looks like both teams are going to spread out a bit more normally this game. So no shenanigans like we nearly had last game.
Yeah, neither team necessarily has that long ring engage this time around. I mean, you do have the Amumu on blue side for Imagine Cloud, but there isn't as much follow up as there was for them in the first game.
I mean, there's an Aatrox. That's all you
Eh,
need.
maybe if the Aatrox was level 2, I'd consider it, but hey, to each their own.
Yeah. Well, you did mention in load in here, Swagasm choosing to avoid any of the flash or exhaust spells, choosing the ignite in the jungle, going full Shaco.
The
And
Shaco angle, indeed.
you think that might push him towards ganking top more to take advantage of the grievous wounds onto the Aatrox here?
Yeah, like as I mentioned earlier on in the draft, where it was that Swagasm can either go and just top lane, which I prefer, or at least I expect him to go, considering it's like, okay, if you got a melee champion up in the top lane, now you've taken Ignite, it just seems to me that it'd be a lot easier to execute going for a gank onto Relish up in the top side since it is an Aatrox. But you do have a Kaisa, you've got an Alistar, a gank bot can work if you pull it off well.
Speaking of bot, looks like Learning and Crit tried something sneaky, but the Alistair showed just a bit too early, so Taste Green Beans and Dr. Dad had a good idea what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, they're primed and ready. They weren't trying to get cheese because it feels as though in a lane like that, if you ever get below or like lower in HP, it becomes a lot harder to stand your ground. And Alistair just being able to walk up, always threaten that engage is something you got to worry about most times.
Lanes hit level 2 just about exactly the same instant there. So, no fun to be had with an early level advantage in the bot lane. Meanwhile, in the top
Ooh.
side, though, just Relish putting the hurt down on the Fiora.
Yeah, Relish really taking advantage of the fact that Lake was rather indecisive of what he wanted to do after he landed that parry, and definitely bit off quite a chunk of his HP for it.
Couple of unfortunate lunges, too, not quite hitting the vitals for the Fiora. Means that just Relish is winning the HP battle in a bunch of ways.
Yeah, right now Lake is in an okay spot. Like I mentioned before a few times, Aatrox technically has the advantage just like in the very early games just because of once he has his Qs and he gets them rolling, his damage can stack up quite a bit, and his regen with his passive is pretty crazy. But Lake has all the tools he needs to get the advantage back in this lane. The lunge mobility is just a lot for Aatrox to handle.
Well, speaking of early ganks here, Kush might be in trouble. 3 members coming in. The gravity field goes down. The flash forward from the Aatrox, and First Blood going to Grease, picking off Kush. And the pressure in the top lane is what paved the way for that gank in mid.
Yeah, I wasn't aware if Lake decided to signal the random level 3 gank coming out from Relish here. He did blow his flash trying to get that kill. Kind of sucks that Grease was getting it, but it is what it is. But they're
Ooh,
looking bot
flash
lane.
forward here by Crit onto Taste Green Beans. The stun is going to come out. Taste Green Bean uses the ignite, or the
Oh.
cleanse, but fail flashes. Learning's going to pick up that one, and now Dr. Dad in trouble. The stun coming out from Swagasm, but without any follow-up. It looks like the Amumu is going to get out all right. Now Lake might be in trouble as Grease looking to gank in the top side. The parry comes down onto the last charge. The Q from Just Relish. Flash forward from Grease will not quite have enough damage, and Lake, using his own flash, will manage to just barely get out.
Yeah, Lake just pretty much playing it as well as he could have. Was able to get out of there just fine. And shout out to Swagasm down in the bot lane. He was able to try to make a play onto Taste Green being in the side of Imagine Cloud,
And you
learning
told me
able
he
to pick up
wouldn't
that kill.
gank bot.
I mean, it was a decent response. Like Grease he ganked mid and he pulls up top side, which I expected. I was like, okay, Grease is probably gonna play top side around Relish, and Swagasm I guess just was like, okay, if we know that he's pathing that way, might as well try to make a play on the other side of the map, which is pretty good heads up play out, all things considered.
Yeah. We are going to see the repeat gank here. There is a ward down, so Lake knows this is coming, but has already used his parry. Won't have that for another 10 seconds. Here comes Swagasm, though, joining the fight. Just Relish forced to back away, but Lake under 500 health. Another return gank from Grease could seal his fate, but that would be a lot of time spent in this top lane.
Yeah, right now they're pretty much even in CS, and ooh.
Engage onto Dr. Dad. The stun is stacked for Crit, but can't quite find his way onto either of those members of the bot lane. Meanwhile, Kush in the mid lane, as the ultimate, didn't level it. Not sure if that was an accident. It does look like he's put 3 levels into the Q. And 2 into the Scatter the Weak. That had to have been a mistake here. Because that would have been
Yeah.
a kill otherwise.
Yeah, if he has a point in his Scatter of the Week or like if into his W, then it'd be pretty sad for Kush right there.
Yeah, currently sitting 3-1-2-0 on point spread. So
That is tough.
that hurts to see if you are a fan of Spectre. Meanwhile, Gruert does have the Chaos Storm available, so Kush has to be a little careful. Crit going in, immediate response entry from Dr. Dad, but Taste Green Beans under 200 health. The Ignite going down, Learning Force to flash away, and now Crit trying to run down Taste Green Beans, but there's no way for the Kaisa to join this fight, and Taste Green Beans might manage to get the kill onto the Alistair. Looks like the answer is going to be
Oh,
no. Dr. Dad now trying to pick up Crit, but may have bitten off more than he can chew. The Ignite comes down. Dr. Dad trying to get one. No, a 2 for 0 in the bot lane in favor of Spectre. Chaos Storm goes down in the mid lane. Kush is almost out of mana, but Gruer does not follow up any further, so that's just going to be a little bit of harass. And the flash forward from Kush, the Scatter of the
ooh,
Weak completely misses, and a good flash from Gruer to stay safe.
ooh. Looks like Spectre's bot lane is coming out with the advantage here. And uh-oh.
Grease might be in trouble. The stun coming out. Gruer, about 1/3 mana, would have enough to join that fight, but choosing not to do so. So Swagasm gets a little bit of harassed down and backs away. He is losing badly in the CS department, though. 42 to 29.
I mean, yeah, I was gonna mention the gold. Like the gold right now is at 1,000, and the bot lane of Spectre is by far ahead right now, right? They can pretty much pick whatever fight they want, and even if it's close, they have ways of fighting against it or getting kills that way. Even though Kushi has died once already, he has quite a bit of a CS lead over Gruer here. And top lane is just kind of even, I would say, where it's kind of the nature of the matchup, especially when you have Grease pulling up as many times as he did.
Yeah, Lake has done a great job of absorbing the constant pressure from Grease. Was that 2 or 3 repeat ganks there to try and get a kill onto this Fiora early?
Minimum two. I'm in the same spot as you. It could have very well been three. I'ma say two. I'm gonna agree some slack. I'm not gonna say that he's been here 3 separate times because that's just like the top laner in me to be like, yeah, bro, this jungler's been in my lane 3 times in like 6 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, with how much time Grease has spent on the top side of the map, it sure must feel like that to Lake, but done a good job of
100%.
absorbing the pressure. The Aatrox not quite feeling like the unstoppable madman we have seen throughout Worlds. The parry to avoid the chains here, and Lake starting to win these fights in large part due to the Sheen.
Yeah, that Sheen really puts in quite a bit of work, just because a lot of times Aatroxes like to rush
Scatter
tabbies.
the Weak comes out. The ultimate will not quite be enough. Gruer down under 100 health, but Kush does not quite have the angle. Gruer will be
Ooh.
about 12 seconds on his TP, so a little bit of an unfortunate timing will force him to stay in base for just a couple of seconds longer or sacrifice that TP. Ultimates coming out from both top laners here. Lake running low on mana, and both junglers on the way. Looks like Grease will be first to the fight. No, in fact, both junglers do not enter the fray. So Lake and Just Relish both use their ultimates and both avoid any deaths.
Yeah, and they're already setting their sights onto this dragon. I mean, they spotted out Grease, so like, hey, he's topside again. Let's look for the Vault side of the map this time around.
Kush doing a great job of landing those Scatter the Weaks. Flash over the wall by Crit. Will find Dr. Dad here. Headbutts him back over to Learning. But Swagasm and Crit now on the wrong side of this fight. Can they find Dr. Dad? How much time will he take? It's gifted over to Kush, but this will give Rift Herald to the side of Imagine Cloud.
Yeah, I mean, not a bad trade for Spectre here. Getting the first dragon, you start accumulating those. It definitely becomes a win condition here. Ooh, they do
Oh, and
spot him
Taste
though.
Green Beans forced to run here. Crit will get the headbutt pulverized. Swagasm using the ultimate forces the cleanse out immediately, but there's another stun on the way. Forces the flash as well to avoid the stun from Crit, so they will get a couple of turret plates here in the bot lane.
Ah, the life of ADC. You're just not allowed to walk up to the lane anymore.
Yeah. Are you aware, sir, that your privileges to live have been revoked?
It's like I'm sorry to tell you, but two tanks have decided that you are not allowed to walk into the lane anymore.
Dr. Dad looking for the engage, finds the Curse of the Sad Mummy onto 2, but it's just Crit, and Learning is able to escape. So Taste Green Bean gets 1, but that will be the end of that for Imagine Cloud. Now on the top side, Lake and Just Relish continuing to fight. Looks like the parry will avoid the chains, and Lake going in deep. Under 300 health is Relish. The World Ender is not available, so Lake could finish this. Looks like he doesn't want to go under the turret, though, so will let Just Relish survive. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, we saw Kush win yet another trade onto Gruer. The Victor not having a good time. This Syndra of Kush is just dominating the lane.
Yeah, and even with all these trades happening, Kush is just slowly but surely getting all these splinters stacked up, and it's just gonna make his abilities come online that much faster and make it harder for somebody like Jinx or for the Victor to continue walking up into these fights. And I feel like a lot of it is gonna be on Dad this game because Relish isn't in the spot where he's just going to be able to take over a team fight right now, right? He's pretty much, even if not slightly behind this Fiora from Lake. So the team fights that I see are going to have to look for have to be pretty well executed if they're going to get anything off of it.
And it's worth noting, Lake has won the Rushed Executioners battle. So fights are going to be a little bit harder for Just Relish. Speaking of harder, though, Swag has him on his way. Will get the stun. Kush in trouble on the mid lane, though. Gruer flashing over the wall. Will try and find enough damage. Looks like the answer is going to be yes, but in the top side, Just Relish falls to Swagasm. So a trade of kills here as Crit going in hard onto Dr. Dad with the Hex Flash. Learning's a little bit too far away, so no fight will be had. And the Rift Herald will likely be popped in the mid lane, so that's going to be some gold in the pockets of Hyper Carry Gruer here. Crit going back in, misses the headbutt pulverize. We're going to take a lot of damage on the exit there. That's going to be the end of that fight.
Yeah, stepped a bit clearing out a ward, took a bit of damage, but yeah, as you mentioned, they plop a bit of damage onto this tower. They drop the Rift Herald, pick up quite a bit of gold for themselves, and what I expected to happen a lot sooner finally happened, where Swagasm pulls up to the top lane with his Ignite and just pretty much kills Relish. Blows his flash and kills him. Like, they only had to use one summoner for that.
Yeah, a nice cheap kill in the top lane. Did use both ultimates, however, those cooldowns are already pretty short. Lake down to a third. Swagasm not far behind on that cooldown. Kush dying in the mid lane is unfortunate as that does accelerate Gruer towards his stacks as well. Now has the Death Ray up and is about halfway to his second upgrade. So the Victor will start getting scarier here. But this game
100%.
is still almost entirely even. Just a 200 gold lead at the moment for Spectre.
Yeah, it's going to be super interesting, especially with the Dragon coming up in only a minute. Fiora, I don't think is going to have her, what I'm assuming is going to be a Divine Sunderer finished by the time it comes up. I'm not exactly sure if they even want her at the fight when it breaks out, but with Kaisa having 2 kills, having that Kraken finished, maybe the side of Spectre is able to play this fight around and maybe get an advantage that way. But I'm really scared for this victor here,
Oh
like
boy,
you
we have
mentioned.
fights breaking out
Ooh,
in two places here. Taste Green Beans is going to be ulted by Learning. Learning will get one kill, takes a couple of turret shots. Now Dr. Dad trying to get the return kill, will not find anything. Lake manages to parry the Q here from Just Relish, pops the ultimate as well, trying to find one more vital, will not manage it. Both of these top laners are so low. Lake flashing away from the Q and manages to get
ooh.
the solo kill in the top lane.
I mean, that was just well played from Lake. I mean, he baited in Relish, got him to
Grease
overexpose his
using the
vital
ultimate
outside of the
finds.
tower range. Ooh.
Swagasm finds Grease. Now Dr. Dad trying to zone away for his jungler. Looks like will do so. However, with the health bars so low, that's going to be a Drake seated here likely over to Spectre, second of the game.
Yeah, definitely gonna keep our eyes on this because it looks like they. Okay, nah. It seems like Greece decides he doesn't want to go for it. Seems like they're gonna give it up. But yeah, good presence coming out from Swagasm, pushing Grease off of the dragon, and then once again, shout out to Lake. Outplayed Relish essentially there, where baited out got him to step outside of tower range just enough for him to flash behind him to get that last vital. And when dealing with Fiora, especially as like Aatrox, you cannot give her vitals like that. You have to play around the walls and just deny her as many ultimate vitals as possible. Because without that, it's really hard for her to kill him.
And speaking of outplays and outmaneuvering, first turret taken by Lake. All of that effort by Grease and Gruer in the mid lane was not quite enough to get that turret. So Lake, with that kill, able to pick it up instead. That's a huge gold swing from what could have been for Imagine Cloud.
100%. I mean, Fiora is just notorious for being that champion that can take towers extremely quickly. You like once you kill somebody in lane, you have like guaranteed 2 plates if the wave is in a good spot for you. And you aren't even losing that much off of a recall anyway, and now Fiora has her Sunderer. You already see that she's down bot side, and she's trying to get another tower.
Yeah, we do see the map flipped here by Spectre. Gonna put Learning and Crit in the top lane. Might be enough to contest this second Rift Herald, which I see looks like they're about ready to start up. Just Relish will be found first. Learning and Crit have gone on to him. The World Ender will go out, but the stuns coming out from Crit keep Just Relish from healing up too much. Crit forced to use the Unbreakable Will to stay alive as Grease and Dr. Dad have joined the fight, and just not quite enough damage coming out of Learning. Just Relish flashing over the wall to survive. Or not flashing, using the E, pardon me.
Yeah, just barely. I mean, if one more auto was going through, that's a dead Aatrox there, and it's definitely beneficial for them. But right now, not the worst part. Not in the worst spot in the world.
No, not the worst spot in the world. However, Taste Green Beans being isolated in the bot lane is not fun. Just 2 lunges is enough to take this Jinx from full health all the way down to where he is now. So Amumu forced to come down and babysit the ADC here.
I mean, yeah, good heads up play from Dad on the side of IC, because if that wave crashed into there, that Fiora was 100% diving that Jinx, and the only saving grace would be if somebody like Grease or Dad covered for her.
Speaking of, Taste Green Beans is dead here. He just doesn't know it yet. Mid lane turret is going to fall.
Poor Grease is trying to cover, but he's leaving.
Yeah, Grease is gone, and here goes Lake. Ultimate comes down. The flash is forced from Taste Green Beans, but it will not matter. Lake has secured the kill. Now Grease trying to find Kush will get scattered the weak, and just that trade takes half his health. Kush is big.
He's big boy. He does have his tier stacked up. He has his mythic item already completed. I guess like just slightly behind Victor in terms of just sheer gold amount, but just as useful.
Up.
He's actually
up 500
up.
gold. 600.
I guess he just hasn't spent. Yeah, he's sitting on like 1,005. Yeah.
It's a lot of gold that he has in his pocket.
Yeah, so once like he decides to go back and spend it, I'm assuming before this next drag spawn is coming up in about a minute 40, he's gonna be dealing quite a bit of damage to whoever he decides to target isolate here.
We've got a bit of a fight coming in. They missed the thing with Learning. Oh my gosh, inexcusable play.
Ain't no fucking.
all jokes aside, that does kind of blow up the chances of Spectre finding Just Relish here, so they'll be forced to clear the wave and just wait. Does give them space with 70 seconds left until this dragon to start looking to find vision. Kush may be in trouble here. The Chaos Storm comes out, forces the immediate flash. The gravity field does not come down in time, but there are 3 members of this Imagine Cloud team here to try and pressure the mid lane. Syndra has a bit of wave clear though. Just a little bit.
Quite a bit. I mean, drag spawning in less than a minute. I'm surprised. I mean, I guess since he has TP, Syndra doesn't want to base at the moment. He'll just wait till the last second until he necessarily has to.
Well, that last second might be with his last breath. Kush going down to, let's see here. I think I see 60 health? 80 health. That's a little bit close from a Jinx Rocket.
Just a tad, just a smidge, but he tethered the line, he finally based, he finished his Seraph's Embrace, and they're dropping the Rift mid.
Yeah, will force a response from Grease, who's wrapping the long way around, as is the rest of Imagine Cloud. And with that, look at this. This is bold play. Spectre perhaps looking for the Baron? No, they decide to change their mind and head back towards Drake as we expected. Teleport coming in from Fiora. This will be a 5-on-4 until Just Relish matches the TP. Speaking of, here comes that TP. Dr. Dad forced to flash away after the Sejuani ult wears off. Just Relish will open this fight for real, but immediately gets all 4 stacks of the Sejuani passive and is forced to back away.
Yeah, Fiora stacks that passive extremely quickly. If she ever decides to pick a target and Sejuani's nearby, that's near instant stun on whoever she chooses.
Flash forward from Crit. The Pulverize does not quite land. Lake going in, will try and find Taste Green Beans here, but gets shut down first by Dr. Dad. And here comes Just Relish. The Scatter of the Weak lands on the 4, and a 3-man Pulverize will zone the entirety of Imagine Cloud out, but it will not matter as Crit falls, and Just Relish may manage to find Kush as well. The Scatter of the Weak buys a little bit of time, but Swagasm and Kush do not have enough damage to cut through Just Relish, or do they? Kush gets the kill. However, here
Oh,
comes Grease. The Scout of the Week does not quite connect, and the last auto attack from Taste Green Beans helps secure that kill. And with that, the first Hextech Drake of the game goes over to Imagine Cloud.
yeah, a lot of that was simply just Spectre misplaying mechanically there. I mean, we saw it opening up of the fight. That was a flash, what seemed to be a headbutt pulverized coming out from Crit there onto Taste Green Beans, who was essentially caught out there. But he just messed up the combo, wasn't able to get that there, and then Lake tried to follow up, popped his ultimate onto the Jinx, and he was able to parry some CC, but that Grave smoke screen just made it impossible for him to proc the last vial he needed to actually secure the kill. And once you got a Jinx with nobody on top of just free hitting, it's going to be extremely difficult to win a fight that way.
That fight was very close, though. If Crit had managed that early pulverize, or there was anyone left to follow up on the second pulverize, that fight could have gone completely differently. So next time, Imagine Cloud will have to be just as careful as they were here if they want to stay in this game.
100%. And I mean, speaking of careful, compared to the first game, I mean, look at the kill score. 6-9. But either way, it's like the kills are a lot lower, or at least less than the first game were at this point in time. And I think that just goes to show that both teams are not taking as many chances as they were in the first game.
Also worth noting that for both teams, the gold or the kill distribution is a whole lot more favorable. In game 1, Crit on Rel had 3 out of the first 6 kills for Spectre. Only has 1 this time, and Learning the ADC has 3. So it's little things like that, just small choices in the heat of fights that can turn these games from perhaps a little bit problematic to in a team's favor. Lake looking to go in onto
Yeah.
Relish here. Will auto attack his way down the lane, and just one Vitals proc takes Relish down to nearly half health.
Yeah, I can only imagine once Lake gets to 2 items, who's
Brewer
realistically
pops
gonna.
the Chaos Storm,
Uh-oh.
forces the flash out of Kush. The ultimate from Grease is not quite enough. Down to 400 health as Kush sidesteps the rocket.
I
And
mean,
that
good
is
awareness.
3 ultimates burned to miss the kill onto the Syndra. That's a pricey mistake.
That is a tad pricey. I mean, you did get his flash, which is always nice to have against a mage or a mage that's as immobile as Syndra. But yeah, using a lot of those resources wasn't as, and not even getting something out of it, definitely pretty
Speaking of
tough.
using resources, the fact that they used all of that and the fact that Grease is all the way on the bot side has given Spectre the confidence to try and start up this Baron.
I
They're
mean,
not
yeah,
going
they're
to get
going
through it
at
in
it.
time, though. Just Relish is here to buy space for Imagine Cloud. And now Kush may be in trouble. Path into Grease and Dr. Dad, but a huge Scout of the Week
Oh,
keeps the bandage toss from connecting all the way.
I mean, shout out to Coach there, man. He is 100% dead if he isn't able to get that scout out of the week off. And good attempt from Spectre. They, like you mentioned, they just don't have the damage at the moment to take that Baron under the noses, especially with the vision that was in the river at the time.
Yeah, the fact that Lake started that on a blue ward meant that Icy knew exactly what was going on from minute 0 there. Syndra, though, is getting very, very close to that max stack of 120, currently sitting at 104 Splinters of Wrath. 16 more, and those executes are going to start hitting. And that's when it becomes a big, big problem, right, Swift?
It definitely does. I mean, you just look at the side of Imagine Cloud. Like, who has MR? It's like you have Brewer and Dad with a bit just because of their Merc treads, right? But like the main people that you're worrying about, right? Like the Graves, the Jinx, don't have any. And with that, when that execute starts kicking in, once he gets all those stacks, it just becomes that much harder for the rest of them to play the game. Because all it takes is one straight combo or Crit landing his headbutt pulverized combos, and you're pretty much dead.
Yeah, speaking of people being dead, we are going to see a whole lot of gray screens here soon as these teams are moving into the 4th Drake fight of the game, spawning in 40 seconds here. Looks like IC has control of the jungle, but Spectre with full control over the river here. Grease, Relish, and Dad moving in, going to try and change that though, and it looks like they'll succeed at forcing out Spectre for now.
Yeah, they weren't able to clear out all the vision. They were taking a 3. They would have been taking a 3 before had they chose to contest that.
Well,
So
look at
good on them.
this, though. Looks like perhaps Icy is willing to cede the Drake in exchange for some turrets. They get one in the mid lane and will likely get one in the top here as well with the Fiora uncontested. Swagasm forces the early cleanse out of Taste Green Beans and will walk out just fine. So that's an important summoner spell not available here for the inevitable Drake fight. And nobody has responded to Lake, so he's going to continue. Even with IC starting up this Drake and will take it very quickly with the Jinx.
Oh, nice cancel.
Fiora. Fiora is going to take this inhibitor turret, might even take it before the teleport completes. Looks like the answer is going to be no. However, Lake starting a fight with just Relish here forces the World Ender and the Flash out. And now, with the entirety of IC on the bot side once again, Spectre wants to force Baron.
I mean, they have some sort of timing here. Kaisa doesn't have IE, and they're, once again, a bit lacking in terms of the damage. Fiora, no mana either. And with everybody coming off a reset, this might be a
Here
pretty
comes
risky
Just
play.
Relish, doesn't have the World Ender, gets stunned to Eternity here, but the damage coming down onto Kush, no ability to stay alive. The Sejuani falls as well, and now it's Crit in trouble, a double kill for the Jinx, and with just Kaisa and Fiora remaining, now IC gets the Baron.
Yeah, that was one heck of a miscommunication that they're coming out from Spectre, where it's just like as Swagasm, Crit, and Kush are all walking deeper into the blue side jungle for this on the side of Imagine Cloud, your main damage threat learning is in River, right? And Lake is resetting because he has literally no mana to fight with. I don't think that was a fight that they wanted to take, and it kind of shows considering how hard they got dumpstered there.
Yeah, they got dumpstered and they gave up the Baron. So despite having had map pressure, basically consistently for the past minute and a half here, lose a fight badly, lose the Baron, and might lose Lake here as well as he's fighting in the middle of 4 members. Will get out and will use the Hextech portal to get away.
Yeah, now you're just making the game harder for Lake, where Lake has a significant advantage over Relish here. If he ever just goes and takes the 1v1 to him, if it goes on long enough, Lake is just gonna be able to kill him no matter what. And we might see that, but now that Imagine Cloud has Baron, it's gonna be so much easier just to respond to Lake on this Fiora, and his impact is just significantly diminished.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, though, for IC, looks like they're planning to make this a fairly defensive Baron. 60 seconds have already elapsed, and no significant pressure has been put onto the map. Little bit of push towards Kush there, but a 3-man scout of the week ensures that no follow-up is forthcoming. Grease walking a little close to Swagasm there, has to be careful he doesn't get stunned up, doesn't have any way out of that. As, in fact, we're going to see a 5-on-5 here. Full NA ARAM moment. Kush gets yet another Sun with the Scout of the Week. As Lake, sitting on the side of this fight, could be looking for a flank. Just Relish in trouble here.
Whoa.
Under 700 health. Takes a turret shot as well. And with their Aatrox so low, it looks like IC's going to be forced to back away a little bit here.
And yeah, they do have. They
Ooh,
do. They did.
the back is stopped
Oh.
here. Kush flashing over the wall, gets the execute with the ultimate. Just Relish is dead once again.
Yeah, I mean, good heads up play out there from Kush, and they do have the bot wave slowly shoving in. They are sending Lake over to grab it, and as you mentioned, this is a mainly defensive Baron coming out from Imagine Cloud, where they're not all too threatened by it, at least from the side of Spectre.
No, they got that turret in the mid lane down to about half health. But with a Baron, you want a little bit more than half health on a turret.
Without a doubt, and right now, I mean, is Fiora able to match up with a Victor? I mean, Victor is at nearly 3 items.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Victor can go ahead and wave clear anything the Fiora sends, especially with Baron not being on the side of Fiora. But it keeps Gruer locked up, means that Gruer can't be here for any fights that might be picked. Speaking of fights, Swagasm and Learning find Grease and Dr. Dad, but I don't think that's the fight they wanted. Swagasm in trouble here, under 300 health, will fall. One last auto attack from Grease secures the boar. And Learning now forced to run away. That overcharge will be enough.
Yeah, I mean, it was you could already see just it was a really weird spot for them to be in because Swagasm, once he goes in, he doesn't commit his ultimate or like his ignite to the fight. I'm not exactly sure if his ignite was up at the start of the fight, but even then, you can just tell that Learning was not able to walk up at all because he always has to be in threat, or at least afraid of Dad's Curse of the Sad Mummy. And if he's just there at all, he can't play the fight how he wants to until that gets cast. And if the only person there is him and Swagasm there, he's just not casting it unless Kaisa's in range.
Interestingly, neither of these two teams are putting much effort or focus towards this Drake. This will be the 5th Drake of the game, and it would put either of these teams on Soul Point. Only now is Imagine Cloud moving towards it. Swagasm perhaps looking for a steal here. Dr. Dad is going to play spoiler. But with Lake on the other side of this fight, this could be problematic. The 4-man Curse of the Sad Mummy is going to lock up Swagasm and everyone else for so long. Looks like Lake is going to fall, but Grease in trouble. Learning dashing in doesn't have quite enough damage to flash over the wall. Will it be enough? Looks like the answer is going to be yes, as Learning picks up the kill. Just Relish now trying to find the ADC, but Swagasm going to defend his carry and get back over the wall. Swagasm might just survive this fight. The zap comes out, but Kush is here. Is that enough? Yes, the ultimate from Kush deletes Taste Green Beans, and now Crit is actually winning the fight against Gruer. Just Relish in trouble as well, as Learning has left the fight and is actually fighting the inhibitor turret. Might try and pick up that inhib before running. Has that overcharge as well. Swagasm has found Just Relish once again, and Relish facing just the Boar is a little bit too scary, so even with Crit on the backside of that fight, Just Relish is going to be able to walk away. But despite picking up the Drake, a fairly disastrous fight for IC.
Yeah, I mean, that fight was all over the place. I mean, it started off well. You got the dragon. I mean, your soul point with near quadruple hex Drake soul. Like, right? Like, I must, like, surely if you get that, it's just a one game, right? But they get the dragon, and then the fight's just split up where your main damage carries are on the back line, having to deal with Fiora. They take care of Lake, not able to proc more than one vital on his ultimate. And at that point, a lot of your damage is just gone. There was nobody to threaten Kush, nobody to take Learning out of the fight. And once Relish was able to get even near Learning, he's out of the fight. And Syndra's just alive and well, able to deal as much damage as she wants, and that's how the fight just collapses at that point.
And Swift, I just want to call attention to the fact
Hit
Taste
me
Green
with it.
Beans was just about full health when that Syndra ultimate hit. Learning in a bit of trouble here, will be found out by Grease, but an immediate response from Crit will keep him alive. So the ultimate from Kush took Taste Green Beans from full health to gray screen in less than a second.
Yeah.
That's healthy.
Like, it is healthy. I mean, the Rabadon's is close to completion. Uh, Definitely going to want to look out for that as
Just
well.
Relish maybe in trouble here. The ultimate pop by Lake. The second vital is procced, and that's going to be enough. Just Relish, his health bar is just gone.
Yeah, Fiora is at 3 items. She has Demolish, and like, you're already seeing like Gruer has to reset. He has to. Nobody can stay on the top side of the map because Fiora can just crack open an inhib in the span of less than like a minute. So a response just has to be thrown.
Speaking of inhibs, the rest of Spectre is going to force through this mid lane. 3-man ultimate from Dr. Dad might put these guys in trouble, but Dr. Dad already dead. Swagasm in the backside of this fight, throwing Taste Green Beans and Gruer off their game. Lake is deep as well, and will find Taste Green Beans. Might die for it, though. Going in very deep, trying to find the vitals. Will not manage it, but Learning picks up another inhibitor turret, so all 3 inhibitors are exposed now. Honestly, I don't know who was the winner in that fight, but I tend to think it was Spectre. Traded 2 kills for 2 and got an inhibitor turret.
Yeah, they surprisingly were able to crack an inhibitor. I mean, shout out to the Imagine Cloud. They took the fight before they could even crack the inhibitor, and then they forced Lake to move away from the top from the lane that he just took the inhibitor tower from. So at least for now, with this Hextech Soul coming up for Imagine Cloud, they don't have to worry about super minions being shoved into their base. Now they can just focus on get these waves to like about half or maybe further, and then just focus on this upcoming fight.
However, we say that, but teleport is available for Lake, and there is a ward sitting just outside the base of Imagine Cloud. If a fight starts to occur near one of the neutral objectives, what are the odds that Spectre sends Fiora on a suicide mission to go clean up all 3 of those inhibitors?
Whew, I mean, dang, that's a really tough call because Fiora is almost guaranteed to take one person out of that fight. But maybe her taking maybe Aatrox or even Victor away from that fight might be more worthwhile, all things considered. Because if there's 3 inhibitors down, it's going to be pretty tough to just fight against that. Like you pretty much give up Baron or like have to if you have 3 inhibs down.
It looks like Icy's going to ignore Lake for now. Now finally sending back Brewer, but Lake putting the
Oh.
pressure down in the bot lane. And without Brewer at this fight, oh no, the teleport is forced here. So Icy going in, Dr. Dad gets a 3-man stun, the ultimate coming out,
Ooh.
and Kush is shut down. Fiora is not joining this fight. Can Icy push through? 2-1 so far, and Brewer is backing off, but here is Lake on the inhibitors. Can Brewer get back in time? Looks like it's not going to be enough for the first inhibitor, might not be enough for the second inhibitor, and we're seeing exactly what I talked about here, Swift, except Lake still has his TP.
Yeah, Lake is still
Lake is actually
alive
going to
and
go in
well.
here on Brewer, uses the ultimate, and will not quite find Brewer. Brewer forced down under 200 health. The flash forward from Just Relish to try and get the kill onto the Fiora will manage it. Hextech Soul is secured as well, but 2 inhibitors are down.
I mean, this is a pretty interesting spot. I mean, shout out to Lake. He did get the 2 toughest inhibitors to have to defend against when you're playing for Baron, right? You got the bot lane inhibitor and the mid lane inhibitor, and it's just now not only that, but you already forced Brewer's TP and his flash as well as Relish's flash. So now Kush and Learning have that sense of like awareness now. It's like, okay, I don't have to worry about just getting blown up because somebody flashing on me, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
less likelihood of that.
And once again, the threat of a TP backdoor is still available. Actually, Grease might be in trouble here, down under 1,000 health, but Brewer over the wall with
Oof.
the Chaos Storm manages to pick off 2. Disaster striking for Spectre once again, and now it's just up to Learning and Crit to try and steal this Baron. Looks like they're not even going to attempt. And Baron taken by Spectre, or not Spectre, by Imagine Cloud.
Yeah, Madsen Cloud, I mean, making use out of that Hextech Soul, like having all that extra attack speed and that slow on top of that chain slow, if so much as anything it hits the side of Spectre, they are just forced to take the fight where they stand, and Spectre's comp is just not built for that. Like, they want to be able to weave in and out of a fight and only go in when it's absolutely beneficial to them, and Imagine Cloud are taking full advantage of that at this point.
Yeah, absolutely, especially with the relatively long ranges of Brewer and Taste on the Victor and Jinx respectively. It's pretty hard for the team of Spectre to get in there and actually disrupt these members. Lake is going to try and find Relish here, though. Has the ultimate, will use it here. Trying to get enough damage before the teleport goes through. Does not quite have it, and just
Oof,
Relish
oof.
barely managing to TP out to the mid lane here, where the inhibitor turret will fall.
Shout out to Relish. Good idea. Walking into that bush and getting close enough to the wall where he can't get that 4th vital off because he realizes, I'm like, yo, if she's able to hit all 4 of these, she's just dead no
Ooh,
matter
just
what.
Relish's TP back is canceled. The ultimate from Sejuani comes out.
Oh,
Is there enough damage? Learning, dashing forward, gets the kill. Now godlike 7-0-3 on this Kai'Sa, and Lake is here to try and force this. They have a super minion. It is just the Nexus turrets remaining. Will IC be able to defend all 5 members of Spectre here? Lake and Learning, in fact, going to head towards the top lane, it looks like, to try and break that final inhibitor.
it's
Baron
going to be a
buff is
tough.
still up, so these waves are so hard to clear for the Syndra.
Yeah, it's going to be a tall ask for that Fiora, for Lake to just walk up into the top side of the map and try to take that inhib. I mean, they are sending 4 in the mid lane, but with Hextech Soul, it's going to be like just a simple attempt there, and inhib could turn out to an all-out 5v5.
Yeah, looks like that is in fact what Spectre is looking for here as they send 4 members up to that top inhib. The gravity field goes down, but the inhibitor already under half health. Flash forward from Dr. Dad only lands onto 1. The stun from Kush will not be enough. Grease trying to find the kill onto the Syndra does not quite manage it though. So the inhibitor just barely survives, as does everyone in the fight.
I mean, yeah, it was a bit overzealous coming out from Dr. Dad going in for the one-man ultimate, trying to pick off one, possibly two people with that. But flash for flash, all things considered, Coach did have to blow his flash considering the good Zonias coming out from Guru right there. He bought a stopwatch, and I'm pretty sure had he not stopwatched that Syndra ultimate, he just dies there, and that probably looks like a taken inhibitor or a lot different of a scenario.
I gotta say, it's a little bit surprising that this Syndra has not picked up Azonias, and by the looks of her build, will not be picking up Azonias.
Hey, to her, to them, I'd say go for it. I love seeing somebody that builds just straight damage. It becomes a lot more interesting to say the least, but it's risk versus reward where you do have Victor. He has that stopwatch. He has Merc Treads, right? He is playing for that. Let me try to stay alive as long as I can. While Kush is like, dude, I've got Sork. I'm trying to get like Void Staff here. I'm trying to pen and deal as much as humanly possible right now.
Yeah, Kush's aim is just 100 to 0 taste green beans or Brewer before the fight gets off the ground. So I guess in that regard, willing to take the death if it means the death of someone on the side of IC. Inhibitors starting to respawn here, and with a minute to Elder, this is perfect timing for Cloud.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you mentioned, inhibs respawning at pretty much the perfect time, considering they were taken at around the time the last dragon was quote unquote fought over. But making that four man creep, that 4 to 5 man creep up into the river, might see a fight break out pretty soon.
Yeah, with Elder spawning in 40 seconds, the only fear for IC right now is that they have Lake, the split pusher extraordinaire, at full build, sitting in the side lane, slowly pushing that in. Forces Just Relish to back off, who does not have the TP to rejoin this fight. No, in fact, Just Relish is coming back to the Drake pit, so Lake will have the ability to go hard for this inhib, and perhaps he has a wave, actually. This could be the end of the
Hmm.
game if IC doesn't realize this. And it looks
I
like they
mean,
will
yeah,
send
he
Relish back.
yeah, he is full build. He has Ionian boots plus the Frozen Heart. Somebody has to go to respond to this guy. And I don't know if they can win a 4v3. I mean, look at this guy.
Teleport is forced from Brewer, and with that, Elder Drake might just be taken here. It's Dr. Dad and Green Beans learning, trying to get over the wall. Cannot find an angle. There he goes over the wall. Grease will be killed, but Swagasm is dead as well. Dr. Dad is going to fall, but Taste Green Beans has hit the reset point. The Guardian's
Oh,
Angel is forced for Taste Green Beans. Here is Just Relish, but Just Relish is dead. Taste Green Beans is dead. It's just Brewer versus the world, and Learning has a Guardian Angel. So with Lake still alive and with Learning up, that's going to be the end of the fight, and that's going to be an Elder Drake take here for Spectre.
I mean, shout out to Lake. Played that probably as good as he could have. Taking that inhib, getting that inhib, that Nexus tower, and then baiting them out. Now they're picking off. They're okay. They're picking to pull
Yeah.
this back because they don't want to risk any shenanigans happening. But they do see that Victor is up in the top side, so they're fine. But back to that fight. I mean, shout out to Learning. Baited his time. Waited to get a decent angle to go in and ult in on top of that fight.
Oh,
He didn't want to take
this is
all that damage.
gorgeous. This is
Oh,
what you want to see from your teammates in solo queue. Holding the Drake long enough that they could get 4 out of the 5 members with the Elder buff. That warms my cold dead heart.
I mean, you love to see. I mean, technically, they could have risked the biscuit. They were like, okay, what if we get this on the Kush? What if? But I mean, Kush is now full build. We're 45 minutes deep into this game. I'd
This is a
hope that,
bonanza, my friend.
I'd hope that Kush has enough damage to execute on his own. Like, does the Syndra really need the Elder Dragon?
Yeah,
Like, really, like,
executes on top of executes, my guy.
yeah, like at that point, we're just being greedy.
If she had Elder, though, she could execute Just Relish with a single auto, or a single ult.
That would have been crazy. It's just like single auto, like bam, like Jin 4th shot with Collector or something, and it's just like, wait a minute.
Hello, you are dead. Please do not resist. Speaking of not resisting, though, we see an uncontested Baron take here, and there were wards on this that were cleared out, so IC knew that this was happening and was powerless to stop it. With Elder and Baron, this could spell doom for the side of Cloud.
It certainly could. Elder and Varen, as you mentioned, it is one heck of a combo here,
And there is
and
only one Nexus turret.
Yeah, just one. I mean, Dad is gonna have to look for a pretty solid ultimate here, and Jinx is gonna have to start opening fire and hoping that the Hextech Soul is more than enough to
Stun
overcome
comes
this.
out
Because
onto Grease, forces the flash out. If Kush had
Ooh.
gotten in range for an ultimate, that was a very, very dead Graves.
Oh
Second
man, I don't know
inhibitor
about you, but
falls. Third inhibitor soon to follow, and it feels like this game is on its last legs. Spectre looking for it, finds just Relish, the
oh,
ultimate comes through, Kush has slain Relish, Grease is next to follow, Dr. Dad flashing forward, gets the stun onto 4 members, but it feels like it does not matter. 2 members are down,
oh,
5 members are dead, and with that, Spectre takes game 2 in a 46-minute banger.
what a banger indeed! And I'm upset. I'm just happy because like Fiora was played pretty well and executed well. There's not many games where I feel like she is, and B, I mean, I get to see it like just such a long and drawn out game with it's just back and forth. Like just like the first game, but even more intense. Like I'm not gonna lie, I was on the edge of my seat like half the time.
And this was a completely different type of game from game number 1. Game 1 was bloody and back and forth and just a matter of who could win the last team fight. This one felt like a more cerebral game, a more, who can out macro more. And it's fun to see these teams do both of those at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it was just macro game because once you get that late into the game, all it takes is one mistake for the entire game to blow up in your face. And I feel that Lake and the side of Spectre just had that slight advantage, and that gave them the win. Like when you are down 4 Hextech Dragons, a Hextech Soul, and you give up Baron, and you still find a way to come out on top at the end of all that. I mean, at that point, I feel it's just that you just made the better decision making at the very end of the game.
Absolutely. And the ballsy decision by Kush to go ahead to forego the Zanyas and say, I will delete you if it costs me my life, it forced such passive play out of Greece. It forced the flash out early. It deleted just Relish there in that final team fight. I would go so far as to say that that boldness might have been the deciding factor there, in little ways that it's hard to quantify.
Without a doubt. I mean,
What
what
a
a banger.
game. Well, folks, we are going to step aside for just a couple of minutes, both to let my throat get a rest and to let these teams load back into the lobby for game number 3. But when we come back, the exciting conclusion to what has been a wild series so far. We aren't done yet, so don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live after a brutally bloody game one and a cerebral game number two. We are here for game number three, and nobody knows which type of game these teams are going to have in store for us here. I'm your host, Aulz. Again, I am joined on the desk by SwiftDuelist. We have Spectre on blue and IC for red, reprising their roles from game number one. Swift, what are we looking for this game? What do you think we're going to see?
Considering the trend, I'm expecting Aatrox not to be banned and probably first picked. But
Aatrox is not banned.
right now that seems to be the case. Spectre already making some slight adjustments. They're banning out the Echo, banning out the Graves, two champions that Imagine Cloud has excelled at, and I feel like they're really comfortable on. So they're definitely making adjustments as they go.
Yeah, doing a good job taking some power away from Grease and Brewer to carry these games. The victor is still available, and Brewer did a good job piloting that champ, even if he lost.
Yeah, I mean, am I calling it or am I calling it? Like, no.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it's not hard to tell since both of these top laners have first picked the champ when possible.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Like, I feel as though that Aatrox is like picker ban.
I don't like this as a counter pick.
It is like a pick where you kind of just go even with Aatrox. I know Relish likes to take this matchup into the Aatrox, and it can work from time to time, but it definitely depends on how he plays the lane. And if he stays even with the Aatrox, it'll be fine. But if Aatrox ever so much as gets a lead and takes it to the rest of his team, it's gonna be a little bit of an ouch for the side of Imagine Cloud.
And unfortunately for Imagine Cloud, on the subject of that particular matchup, Renekton tends to fall off. Aatrox does not particularly have that issue. So if this game goes to late and Renekton doesn't do more than stay even, Lake is going to be able to start taking over this game.
Yeah, I mean, Lake played pretty well in that set, like pretty much in all the games, right? Where Aatrox was the most fed person, at least in the early game, for the side of Spectre, which is nearly doubling the gold compared to Relish. And in the second game, he was one of the key reasons why they won, thanks to his Fiora split push. So definitely want to keep an eye on him once again on this Aatrox.
Icy takes the Kaisa away from Learning, so Learning responds with the immediate Lucian Nami lock-in. That is a Chad move, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, Lucian Nami was slightly like nerfed a bit, I guess, when the electrocute interaction was taken away from them. But if there's any indication, especially at Worlds, people are still not afraid to pick this bot lane, just because I guess the lower elo you are, the more mistakes people make, the easier it is for you to capitalize on it. And this bot lane duo is no stranger to that. And in response, I see picking up the Kaisa Nautilus, probably one of the tried and true combos that you can pick down in the bot lane for Kaisa.
Yeah, absolutely. The Nautilus English is hard, ladies and gentlemen. I'll get there eventually. The Nautilus does a great job of stacking up that passive, and of course, the depth charge is impossible to get away from, no matter how many relentless pursuits you have available. So Lucian will be getting hit by that at the very least. Interestingly, lots of mid lane bans coming out of the second set of bans. Syndra, Victor, and Orianna all taken off the map. Syndra played in Game 1 by Learning and Game 2 by Kush, both of whom piloted it quite well, so Icy doesn't want to deal with that anymore.
Yeah, having to take the Syndra away, pretty understandable. Even with Kush not having like the most insane of stat lines, the amount of damage that he was able to output in certain fights was kind of insane. So I'm totally up for a ban like that. And then Orianna is just one of those teamfight champions that even when she's behind has one heck of an impact. And ooh, Viego, ooh. Let's see. Let's see what they got cooking with this Viego. That's gonna be interesting.
And Viego, an interesting pivot here from Greece. Hovered the Lilia as well. But the Viego instead going to mean that if they can get one kill onto a fed member of Spectre in these late game fights, it could turn on a dime. But there are a lot of scary members of Spectre already. And Kush finishing it off with a Talia. No, not the Talia, in fact. Switching away
Ooh.
from that.
Oh, he's trying to throw you the curveball. He's just like, bro.
Yeah, yeah. He's sitting in this listening to the stream, trying to make us confused here. They will lock in the Talia.
I mean, he's got you cooked. I mean, I don't think it's bad at by any means. I feel like it's not bad at all. Um, just because, Viego has his dash, Nautilus technically dashes in when he gets pulled in by his hook, Kai'Sa dashes in, Renekton dashes in. I have no qualms with this. This is a pretty solid pick, all things considered.
Yeah, absolutely. Ooh, the Silas into the Talia, so we'll be able to follow the ultimate if Talia manages to get a roam off here. However, the Stonefield is going to be very problematic for IC.
Yeah, if this Talia does not get put behind, or like I feel it's going to be a really weird place to be. Because your only necessary form of engage is Nautilus, maybe a Renekton or Viego flank, and Silas if he steals a valuable ultimate. But that is about it. IC is definitely in a weird spot where they have to make the move to get the fights going the way they want to, but they don't have that many tools to do so.
Yeah, just looking at this draft, who wins? In a perfect world, in a completely neutral world where everyone
Ooh.
plays perfectly, who wins this match?
Oh man, I mean, I'd probably say Spectre. Like, I'm just thinking Lucian can match up with Kai'Sa in terms of damage, especially if Nami's around him. Like, Lucian on his own in an isolated 1v1 with Kai'Sa pretty much is like pound for pound goes with her. Like, Kai'Sa has to catch him off guard or be like completely by himself or like for Kai'Sa to even have a chance if she's not ahead of him. And Nami just makes that so much harder. And just looking at the rest of IC, like I mentioned before, you have to go into this Talia and this Nami and this Aatrox, and they just all excel at people that want to take a fight into them.
Well, as you said, it'll be tough for IC to pull the trigger here, but pull the trigger they will have to do. They won it. I won't say handily, but they won after a bloody, bloody match in game number 1. So perhaps the more violent, fight-oriented style of game works a little bit better for them. Means they'll have to pull out all the stops here to find their way onto this Spectre team. It'll be interesting to see what Grease chooses to do, since this will be his first time this match not on Graves. So the pathing going to be a little bit different. His ability to pressure lane is going to be just a little bit different. And after about 70 minutes straight of playing Graves in terms of game time, will he be able to switch on a dime like this?
I definitely think it's plausible. I mean, Grease is one of the better players of the team. He definitely has a commanding presence. I feel like he put him on most stuff and he performs pretty well. So I'm not too worried about his performance, at least going into the game. But just thematically, as I've stated many times over, they have to be really careful with how they take their fights. I mean, it can go well for them. I mean, whenever Viego gets his reset, it just opens the floodgates for the rest of IC to capitalize on it. But they've got to get to that point first, and blowing up Talia when all your team has dashes, or blowing up an Aatrox or a Hecarim is not the easiest task going into a game.
No, absolutely not. One last question here as we finish up client draft. Who is your player of the match for both teams so far? I know we have game 3, and game 3 might throw everything on its head. But after games 1 and 2, who do you think is performing the best on each of these teams?
Sure. Okay, let me see. Who's performing the best on each of these teams? I mean, let's think back to it, right? So in the second game, we had I feel as though that Lake, even though he didn't have the most insane of stat lines, probably had the most impact on the win that Spectre got.
Sure.
So that's probably my vote for Spectre, considering that's where they got their win from. And then as far as I mean, when thinking back to the game, the best performing players stat wise were the ADC, Gruer, and Grease. And just considering how Grease was so far ahead of the jungler at a certain point where he wasn't making that many mistakes, J4 was getting caught out pretty frequently. I feel as though that Grease probably played the most or had like the most impact of how that game went for IC.
I think I would tend to agree with both of those. Lake and Greece currently standing at the forefront of these two teams. But with game 3, with new drafts here, who knows what'll happen. We're going to step aside for just a couple of minutes to let these guys load in and get a little bit ahead of us so that none of you can cheat off the stream. But when we come back, game number 3, does Spectre maintain their spot on the podium of, regular season BTL, or does IC bring it back to 500 and make Spectre sweat a little? We'll have the answers right here, so don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on to the Rift for the final game of this match here between Spectre on the blue side and Imagine Cloud on the red. After a incredibly bloody game one, Imagine Cloud started out on top with a 1-0, but Spectre came roaring back in game number two to bring us to game three here. Go ahead, we still have about 60 seconds left, so put those channel points to use and get your predictions in. The invade coming out of Imagine Cloud finds nobody, but it's an
Yeah.
aggressive start, and that's exactly what they need to do. Nobody's voted for Imagine Cloud yet, so any of you who haven't put points down, go ahead and do that now.
Big money, big money, big money. To whoever decides to go for it. But yeah, as you stated, they try to go for a little cheeky invade, and they have to kind of just play around getting these advantages early, setting back the Talia, setting back the Hecarim. That's pretty much their claim to fame at this point. And I feel as though if they don't get ahead, they're in a really awkward spot against this team because Lucian just deals more damage than Kai'Sa when they're even. It's a lot harder for Kai'Sa to take the fight into Lucian. Talia with her uh, unraveled ground, just applying that stun to pretty much everybody on the side of IC, and Aatrox being the menace he is, I just feel like it'd be a lot harder for them to play team fights out.
Absolutely. Both teams know where the other jungler is. Swagasm will go ahead and clear out that ward before finishing off the red buff so that nobody knows where he's going.
Yeah, it's just chilling. Seems as though both junglers opting to take red as they're starting clear. It seems like they're going to be pathing up, like opposite of each other this time around.
Yeah, although Swagasm going for the pretty slow clear here. Very low right now, but does still have the smite available. We'll probably use that here on the chickens. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, looks like Learning and Crit are going to hit level 2 first. Here comes the Lucian dashing forward. Only gets a couple autos onto Dr. Dad, though.
Still, any HP taken away is definitely an advantage for them. Having Dr. Dad lower and lower makes it a lot harder for him to decide to go in, considering he's already out of all of his pots before minute 3.
Yeah, that is problematic. Did take the light blue tree, so may have the biscuits. Don't know
Yeah,
offhand if minion dematerializer interferes with that.
it very well might. I've forgotten exactly which slot of the tree it's in, but it's definitely a
Crit and
possibility.
Learning may be in trouble here,
Oh,
though. Dr. Dad flashing forward gets the auto attack down onto Crit, and Crit in trouble here will fall to the Kai'Sa. So first blood going over to Green Beans here in the bot lane.
yeah, crit being a bit
And Kush
Uh-oh.
may be in trouble as well, forced to flash away from Just Relish, who sliced his way into that fight.
But yeah, as I was saying before the gank that Relish tried to put upon Coast right there, Crit was just being a bit greedy with his flash. He saw Dad flashed in, and I'm assuming he just underestimated Nautilus's auto attack range or the MS difference and got caught out by that root. He could have very well have just flashed down and maybe have been fine, but either way, first blood going over to IC, definitely in the spot that they want to be in.
Chain gank coming out here. Kush being engaged upon by Brewer. Swagasm has left the area, and with no flash available, Kush is as good as dead. The question is, who will the kill go over to? Looks like it's going to be given to Brewer, and the chain gank so far is succeeding. Force Grease.
Yeah, Grease putting in work, staying like pretty visible on the map, all things considered.
Taste Green Beans taking a lot of damage, but the root going in onto Learning, flashing away from the bubble is Taste Green Beans. The Ignite going down, but Learning, will he survive here? 47 health, looks like the answer is going to be yes. Both of those ADCs so desperately low.
Yeah, I've been learning, trying to get some sort of advantage in the lane, considering he's already 10 CS behind, having to play back, considering Grease ganked earlier.
And we'll get a little bit of that CS back as Taste Green Beans is backing at the moment, but still down a significant amount as well as a kill. So Learning going to be in a tough spot. And with a mid-game champ like Lucian, you do not want to fall behind like this.
Not at all. good bit of trading coming out there from Relish, but we'll definitely have to watch out for this matchup once both of these top laners at level 6, because that's when the real brawling starts.
Yeah. Lake does still do a lot of damage with that Q, though. 126 on the very first charge. Even at level 5 here. So just Relish has to be a little bit careful where he stands. Dashing in, though, is Relish. Will get the stun up, but the chains pull Relish back. 200 damage from that final Q, and Lake dashing in will get the Conqueror off, but chooses not to continue the fight.
Yeah, once Lake goes in and taps that extra auto, there's not much more room for him to chase, especially into an enemy and minion wave like that. But he's got all the advantage he needs right now, where he's up CS. He probably has a pretty solid base and might even just TP back to keep the pressure onto Relish with how low HP he is.
Yeah, 1,300 gold will get him a serrated Dirk and some consumables. The Cloud Drake does get taken early by Grease and the bot lane of Imagine Cloud, so that will put them on track currently for a 21-minute soul. As Swagasm coming here in the top lane, the Dominus is available. Relish flashing away from Swagasm, but the Dominus still forced out. So those are two important spells used by this Renekton in exchange for just the Ghost. Koosh may be in trouble here. Brewer is level 6. Grease is here as well. No flash available, and Koosh will fall. That's a second gank succeeded in the mid lane for this Viego.
Yeah, Grease definitely putting in work, keeping pressure on this Talia. I mean, Talia is 6, but just has not been able to move out of that lane, just been constantly pressured the entire time. And we love to see that if you're rooting for the side of IC.
Yeah, I see doing a good job of taking advantage of this Viego. No shakies coming out of Brewer, changing champs after 2 consecutive games on the Graves. And Swagasm hasn't managed to have any real effect on the map early. Once he hits level 6, the pressure will be on for this Hecarim to start changing the tempo of this game.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, he wasn't able to do much in the mid lane, where Talia's setup doesn't really synergize all too well with Hecarim's. He because mostly Hecarim, all he does is just displace until he hits 6, and then bot lane was just such a bloodbath in the early game that trying to go for a gank probably wouldn't turn out the best with how low both of them were. So for right now, Swagasm, as you mentioned, is just kind of farming it up, staying even with the Grease, and we'll look to see if he's able to get the rest of his team on the board in the next couple minutes.
Yeah, unfortunate that the horse is only even, considering how much time Viego spent shadowing and camping lanes here. So just being even is not what you want to see from a farming jungler. Swagasm will have to pick up the pace here now that he has a Sheen and a couple of swords.
Ooh.
Just Relish being pulled in. The scatter the weak, not the scatter the weak. It does end in the weak. I just can't remember what the first part is. Call the meek.
Oh,
Call
call the week, yeah.
Yeah. We'll get there eventually. It's late. We had a 45-minute game. I'm allowed to be a little bit bad at this job.
You're big chillin'.
Yeah. But the Call the Meek doing a lot of healing for this Renekton early. The Executioners picked up by the Renekton means that Lake going to struggle a little bit to heal without popping that World Ender, but Swagasm is here, the World Ender is popped, and here comes Swagasm. Has the ultimate available, will not use it. And it looks like this time in the mid lane, Koosh finally has wards.
Yeah, Goose well aware of what's happening and doesn't want to take any part of it.
Finally learns from his mistake. Grease now moving up towards the top half of the map, so Swagasm will be forced to back off of the Rift Herald.
Yes,
Swagasm, in
trying to
fact,
stay
might be
away.
in trouble here. Doesn't particularly have a way out of this one, as Lake getting engaged upon by Just Relish. Just Relish down under 400 health, but Lake flashing the wrong direction and will, in fact, fall. Meanwhile, in the river, Koosh fighting Dr. Dad, nearly losing to the sport, which is a little bit unfortunate. And with 4 members of IC topside, looks like the Rift Herald is as good as taken, as well as the blue buff side of Swagasm's jungle.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a bit of just a miscommunication.
Learning
And,
going in here onto Taste Green Beans, but gets exhausted immediately. Flash forced by, or from Crit, as the turrets do so much damage this early in the game once they've ramped up. Taste Green Beans is still fairly low, but if he can get a good ultimate off, Crit and Learning might be the ones in trouble here.
Yeah, I mean, as I was about to say, like I was saying miscommunication as far as the top side went, but even down here in the bot lane, just that tower dive that was entirely possible just goes south
Lake
once
may have found Grease
miscommunication goes
here.
in. Oh,
Doesn't have the World Ender. The drive-by coming out of Learning forces the flash from Taste Green Beans, but not quite enough damage. The Rift Herald does get taken in the top side, by the way.
yeah, as I was saying, it was like a lot of miscommunication where that bot lane tower dive was entirely possible, but having learning start tanking first really put a hamper on that attempt, and then back up to the top side, like Lake extremely low. Swagasm starting that Rift Herald was extremely dangerous, or at least risky to say the least. And then Swagasm walks up, and apparently Lake is just not aware that the rest of Imagine Cloud have already roamed up the river and ends up flashing into them. I mean, a lot of it, at least for right now, seems to be going the way of IC, thanks in part to the Spectrums just kind of not being on the same page right now.
Yeah, 4 kills. Right now, Grease with 100% KP, really putting the work in on the Viego. However, top lane starting to feel the Aatrox effect. Second Drake is taken by Grease. So this will, again, keep them on that 21.5-minute pace for Dragon Soul, and it will be Earth Soul.
Yeah, giving out that good Mountain Dragon. We'll see if this dragon actually goes the way of a Mountain Cloud, considering how long it took for the soul to get taken in the second game. And in the first game, I don't even believe it was taken at all. I think they just ended the game off of a push.
You would be correct. Now, the other question here becomes, which of these teams does a potential Earth Soul benefit more?
Well, oh,
We might
I was
have to
gonna say
put
it
that on
before.
pause.
Yeah.
Lake looking for a fight onto Just Relish, but doesn't seem to know that Grease is in the area. World Ender is popped early. The stun coming out though, and Lake may be in trouble. Grease now on a killing spree. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, the Ignite coming down onto Learning. Dr. Dad and Taste Green Bean still completely full on health, and fights everywhere being lost by Spectre.
Yeah, Spectre really not getting much of anything. They're still not on the board. It's 12 and a half minutes in, which is definitely a different sight when you look at the previous two games. But back to that point that you mentioned, I think it definitely benefits the side of Spectre more having that soul, which is pretty tough, them not being in like contention of it, or at least in the position to get that soul until much later in the game. Just because the last thing that you want is for Viego or for Kaisa to be able to get kills and or resets, especially the Viego. And like one of the main ways to counter that is just having more, like having a shield and having more resistances. And when you have neither of those, it just makes his life a lot easier.
Definitely makes sense. Rift Herald popped in the bot lane for Taste Green Beans. And speaking of resistances, we have fights starting here in the top side. Lake looking for Just Relish, getting a lot of damage down, and Just Relish maybe in trouble. Forced to pop the Dominus here, down under 600 health. But I see very deep into the red buff jungle
Ooh.
of Spectre. Dr. Dad trying to avoid getting flung back into the turret and will manage it. Lake now in trouble, down under 200 health. The flash forward from Just Relish completely misses the Iron Spike Whip though, and Lake might be able to get out of this. The slow regen from Ocean Drake is keeping this Renekton alive, but Lake gonna get over the wall. Looks like he might just barely have the speed to get out here. Guru with the flash forward, misses the
Oh,
abduct, and Lake once again dashing away here. Looks like he will survive. Led the entirety of Imagine Cloud on a merry goose chase all across the top side of the map.
is he still going? No, he is not. I mean, shout out to Lake. Pretty pretty solid there. Also unfortunate for Relish flashing into the bush with no vision and just barely missing out on Lake there, which could have easily been a kill. But they're already up nearly 4k gold, 2 drags, and 5 kills. Imagine Cloud is in a really good spot, all things considered.
Yeah, and the gold fairly spread out. About 2,000 gold advantage for Greece, and then small advantages, less than 1,000 gold everywhere else on the map. However, that does give a bit of a target here for the side of Spectre. If they can take Greece out of these fights, it's going to take a lot of that gold advantage away.
It certainly is. I mean, as you mentioned, most of that gold is put squarely onto him. So if he ever overextends, I think that Spectre do have quite a number of tools to take care of him, especially if Talia doesn't get caught out early on in a fight, and if Lucian or Aatrox are available to deal damage inside of those clumps that they want to look for.
Kush is being gifted a blue buff here. Gonna allow him to spam those stones just a bit faster. Perhaps finally get some pressure advantage here over Gruer. Does still have a 25 CS lead, but when the Sylas has a kill and an assist, it doesn't seem to matter all that much. Although Weaver's
Ooh.
Wall coming down here, Taste Green Beans avoids the bubble. However, Kush gets hit by the depth charge, and now dashing forward is the Lucian. However, Gruer has joined this fight, will steal the tidal wave, but Swagasm on the backside of the map does manage to pick off Taste Green Beans. The Nautilus falls as well. It's just Gruer left in this fight and will fall to Swagasm.
Ooh.
Grease is here. The health bars are so
Uh-oh.
low. He flashes in,
Ooh.
but he gets stunned up. A triple kill for the Hecarim, and it is all gone to hell for IC. The dragon is as good as Spectre's, and that gold gap in the jungle has disappeared.
I mean, we kind of just called it. It's just like, hey, if Grease kind of overextends a bit, like they've got the tools to stop him, right? If Talia doesn't die, they've got the tools to stop him. And what happened? He goes in, gets stunned up, and
Hey,
now fighting the
Relish,
top
what
side.
are you doing? Relish has found Lake and Kush here on the Rift Herald. Drake is taken, and with Lake and Kush here, and the response from IC being nowhere close, Herald is taken as well, assuming they remember to pick up the eye.
I mean, yeah, like as you said, everything that could have gone wrong for Imagine Cloud just went wrong. I mean, it 4-for-0 if I'm not mistaken. If not
You are
4-for-1.
correct. 4 for
And yeah,
0.
four for
Grease did not
zero.
manage to pick up a single kill after Flash stun sliding over the wall. Just gets hit by the entirety of the Talia zone. And
Yeah.
you can almost imagine the pain in Grease's voice. However, Kush may be in trouble here, trying to find at least a counter kill onto Dr. Dad. Does not manage it, but the Rift Herald might be enough for the turret. Oh boy. Let's take a look here. 39 health, so the next wave crash will secure that. Unfortunate for the mid laner of Spectre. In the top side, Lake going in hard onto just Relish has the Eclipse fully completed. So even with the Gore Drinker on the side of Relish, Lake starting to win these fights a little bit. Crit maybe in a little bit of trouble here as Dr. Dad has found the engage. Swagasm not enough to save his support. So the Nami will fall once again. And in the top side, Lake and Relish continuing to spar. The health bar is drifting lower and lower. World Ender will be available in just a second here.
Yeah, I
Fights
mean, right
all over
now,
the map.
yeah, the fights have been going pretty back and forth, at least for now. Imagine Cloud are able to recuperate some of the losses that they kind of handed over in these earlier fights.
Dominus popped World Ender to respond here from Lake. Will it be enough? Swagasm on the way. Just Relish maybe in trouble here, but not enough speed from that devastating charge. So the Crocodile gets out just fine.
It certainly doesn't. Oh my god, we're looking for a bush cheese.
Bush cheese do be fun. The Nami perhaps in trouble. Here comes the Weaver's Wall. Learning in trouble, but Kush may have found Taste Green Beans. Does he have enough damage? Looks like the answer is going to be no, but Grease under the turret. Where are you going, Grease? Does get the heal from Triumph. However, one more turret shot gives the kill
Whoa.
over to Crit. Now Kush perhaps in trouble. The Everfrost will not quite find Gruer, so he will get out okay. That is a 2-for-1 in favor of Imagine Cloud, unless Lake decides to continue this fight.
Yeah, I mean, Lake is around. There isn't an objective up, but he doesn't have TP, so that's probably a downed top tower.
Taking a look at the Renekton here. With the full cannon wave, that turret is as good as dead.
Got a bit more gold in his pocket now. At this point, I think Renekton's probably where he needs to be. He's not. He's pretty much even up with the Aatrox, so he'll be just as big of a threat as the Aatrox is coming in these team fights, which I assume the Magic Cloud will want to take to get to Sold as soon as possible.
Yeah, with about a minute 40 until this next Drake, neither of these teams have started moving for vision. Baron is up as well, so a trade always on the table at this point since Soul is not going to be happening with this next Drake. I am a little bit surprised that neither Crit nor Dad have started moving into place these wards though.
Yeah, they're definitely waiting on the rest of their team to ever make a move into that I kind of respect where they don't want to be the reason why they can't contest an objective. They don't want to get caught out, and especially with how many fights have been happening in the bot lane, I can definitely understand why they're overly cautious this game.
Yeah, absolutely. This game has been an interesting mix of games 1 and 2, where there has been some pure bloodbath and then a little bit of strategy thrown in there for good measure.
Yeah, I mean, it might very well be a like like a second game where the kill score was pretty small. I mean, like we're just one kill away. Like I remember before it was 6-9 at a certain point.
Kush may be in trouble here. The ultimate from Grease used, forcing the flash out of Kush here. But that will be a cooldown that is not available for this Drake fight in 40 seconds, should Spectre choose to start it. The fight, that is, not the dragon.
Yeah, the Spectre right now kind of just on the edges, not able to walk in at the moment, and they might get engaged on
Yeah,
in the
speaking of
coming
on the
seconds.
edges, look where Grease is. Grease is going to get cut off by the Weaver's Wall. Actually, not quite. Just barely managing to get over in time. If Kush had put that angle just a little bit harsher, I think he would have picked him up. And now Swag has him in trouble, forced to use the Unstoppable Onslaught over the
Ooh.
wall, will still fall. And with the jungler down, now Spectre in trouble. The bubble comes down, doesn't land on anyone. The ultimate culling will
Oh.
find Grease though, and Lake at the forefront of this fight does finally fall. Learning has picked up a second kill onto Dr. Dad, but it does not matter as he falls to the Kaisa. Now just Relish diving in onto Kush and
Ooh.
Crit, and will help secure 2 more kills, a quadra for Taste Green Beans here in the mid lane. And with that ace, the dragon is as good as clouds, and perhaps the Baron.
Yeah, the Baron might be a little far-fetched. At least I would assume do have Swagasm up and alive to potentially contest it. But shout out to Taste Green Beans there with the Quadra. Definitely in a good spot when that fight broke out. He wasn't really in threat of much damage hitting him at the time. And it was kind of confusing as to why Spectre clearly see with their very own eyes that Swagasm just got blown up, lost his ultimate, and still took a fight. I mean, they were able to get one or two, but it definitely cost them a lot more than they gained.
Yeah, and a 6-1 and 3 Kaisa now with 3 items is a pain point. Currently 3,000 gold up over the Lucian, who will never hit his mid-game power spike at this point, learning destined to always be just a little bit behind.
Yeah, being this far down in CS is really going to be tough. And like as I mentioned before, where Lucian can typically match up Kaisa in terms of damage, like even, maybe even a bit behind just because of her damage. But oh,
Swagasm once again in trouble. Face checks Dr. Dad. The ultimate from Taste Green Beans will secure that kill. And a flash forced out a crit as well. That might just be the Baron now with Swagasm dead. Grease is here. The only member not in the area is Brewer, but split pushing in the bot side is perfectly fine for the Sylas with the TP available. Weaver's Wall coming down here. Teleport will be channeled by Lake. The culling taking these members a little bit low. Can they pick off Grease here
oh,
before the fight starts in earnest? Looks like the answer is going to be yes as Kush takes the
oh,
first kill here. The bubble goes down onto the Renekton, who is so low, but the Gore Drinker is massive. Learning dashes in once again, trying to get enough damage. Finds 2. The bubble going down once again.
oh.
Finds the Kaisa, and now it's just Guru remaining. Can they find him? It's just Lake and Crit, but Lake on the Aatrox still has not found his first pill of the game. Guru going back
Oh.
around will have sushi tonight, but can the Demon of Death find Sylas? Looks like the answer is going to be no. So Lake still killless in this game, but the 4 for 3 fight is enough to stop Baron.
Yeah, right now is a so like we said again, quite a back and forth game. I mean, imagine Cloud with all the pressure. I mean, you think, okay, they got Swagasm, they're on the Baron, 2 to 3 people already in the pit. all it takes is just one fight, and it just becomes so spread out where somebody wants to hit Baron, somebody else wants to take the fight, and everyone the second that they get split and Aatrox is able to isolate onto like maybe two people by himself, it's all a wrap. He just has to stand there and be pretty. Like he'll take most of the damage that's coming out from IC anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Lake, despite being 0-3 and 4, is a pretty scary frontliner at this point. Has a 30 CS lead and is in fact just about even with Relish in terms of gold. Dr.
Oh,
Dad will find the hook just barely onto Swagasm, uses the depth charge as well. Here comes the Weaver's Wall, so Kush coming in, and Grease now on the wrong side of
oh,
this fight falls to Learning before anyone else from Imagine Cloud can get into range. Kush does get rooted up, does get the root with the Everfrost rather, and now Taste Green Beans might be in trouble. Looks like Swagasm going to try and go in. Doesn't have the ultimate available. It might have enough damage. The ultimate from Kai'Sa has to be used defensively, but Learning is there. Learning will chase down the Kai'Sa. This is now a 2 for 0. And with the Renekton coming, Swagasm and Kush have to be a little bit careful, but Learning and Crit are still full health, so the Crocodile might be in trouble here. Looks like Learning is going to go ahead in. The
oh.
Ardent Blaze comes out. Renekton trying to dash away. Will get the second dice, just barely hitting the Baron, and gets out alive. But again, a disastrous fight for Imagine Cloud. They were on top of the world, and it feels like they're slowly falling down that mountain.
Yeah, speaking of Mountain Drag coming up in about a minute. They definitely want to take this one, considering it is Mountain Soul. They want to contest that Kai'Sa nearly at her IE, but might not be able to get to it by the time this dragon comes up. Lucian probably looking to take a base, get some of his items back, and maybe even out the playing field with
Yeah,
all the gold that's been influx into him.
is now completed his third item, so just a couple of components down on the Kai'Sa. Feels a whole lot better than he did just 2 minutes ago. And perfectly in time here for Soul Fight. Swagasm needs to be careful. He has gotten picked off at some inopportune times. The Onslaught of Shadows will be stolen here, but Kush has found
Oh,
Grease on the back of this fight. Grease under 400 health will be in trouble, and with that much health gone, even though there is a plant available, Lake TPing in is going to
oh.
signal the start of this fight, and it's a fight that IC is already in down on. The crab is taken, but Grease has to run away, is separated from the rest of his team, might be in trouble here. Kush looking for the angle, does not quite find it, but Grease is so far away from this Drake pit. Can he get back in and find an angle to steal? As Learning goes in onto Just Relish, trying to keep him out of this fight. Taste Green Beans dashing in, but Swagasm keeps everyone away from his ADC. Brewer stopwatching just barely alive. Taste Green Beans will not fall. He will fall, but after having taken the Hecarim, Grease is so low. Grease will fall.
Oh.
It's just Relish left in terms of damage dealers for IC. Does he have enough? Just Relish is so low. Just Relish will fall. A triple kill for the Lucian here, saving the soul and taking the Drake.
In a fight that just doesn't go the way of Imagine Cloud. I mean, opening up the fight with having Kai'Sa landed the W onto Learning, but Learning had both his flash and his exhaust and his Gale Force available to him. It made it so that no one could realistically touch him, and then Relish is getting chunked out at the start of the fight by that very Lucian. You had a really awkward fight where Renekton had to hesitate to go in. The rest of Spectre is just kiting up into the river. And then the rest of Imagine Cloud is just playing catch up at that point, and Grease forcing his way into the middle of everybody just to get a reset, and it kind of bit him at the end where he just got bursted before he could get the next one off.
Yeah, Kush doing a great job with that stun field. But Learning, you hit the nail on the head. His positioning, his target selection, and his fearlessness, knowing that he had the exhaust, knowing that he had the flash, and perhaps more importantly, knowing that he had his Swagasm in the back pocket. That sounds really weird when I say that out loud. Um, Definitely allowing him to play angry, to play forward. Lake might be in trouble here trying to do the same thing. The healing from World Ender is so much, but it will not matter with 4 members there. Lake gonna keep buying time, will give the shutdown over to Grease, but that's a barren look for the side of Spectre. They know that there's no way that Grease can get up here in time with a now just a bit fed Learning. to push this Baron
Ooh.
down under 3,000. Kai'Sa's on the way. The teleport from Sylas trying to find a counter here will not be in time. Weaver's Wall comes out, pushes Green Beans away. Can Brewer find the angle? The shove comes out. Brewer
Whoa.
in trouble. Learning now dominating 9-3 and 8 as the Sylas gets picked off. Relish perhaps in trouble. The slows coming out, learning, looking for the angle. Grease and Dr. Dad are there, so this ADC has to be just a little bit careful. Grease going back in for the stun.
Whoa.
Here comes Swagasm trying to keep his ADC safe. Grease under 100 health will manage to get the kill onto the Lucian, though. Taste Green Beans will perhaps pick off Kush as well. Yes, a 700 gold shutdown to him. Swagasm now the only member of Spectre with Baron, and a little bit of an overextension here from the side of Spectre means that that Baron take has been taken back from them.
One heck of an overstep. I mean, you were just gassing up, learning for a second there, and he eased into Grease mid charge on his stun, and gets caught up for it. Instantly down cast the ultimate onto him. He's got barely any room to go, and even though Grease does die, not having that Lucian to back up the Talia and the Nami in that fight just let Kai'Sa free hit, as there was no one with any regular DPS just matching her in terms of damage. And once again, people just don't know how to use blast cones with more than 3 people on it.
It's okay. You know, this isn't the LCS stage. We're still in a world where Maw of Malmortius works like it's supposed to, so not being able to use blast cones is a small price to pay.
That's tough. That's tough. This is funny. We saw it like two games already, or like at least twice. But
Oh, and they will be
yeah,
getting called out in power rankings. I hope they're aware of this.
oh bro, that's toxic. I mean, either way, for
Hey,
probably not the first time in this game.
I gotta generate content and messages in this server somehow.
True, true. It do be like that sometimes, but Drag is coming up in about a minute and a half, and I don't want to say this is the first time they've been in the lead, but it feels like it. Spectre is technically ahead of Imagine Cloud for probably the first time in forever.
That is a sliver of a lead, though. Less than 200 gold, fluctuating with every minion that is taken. But you're right, it's a lead. It's something for them to cling to say, we've kept winning these fights. We went from 9 to 18 to 19 to 24. We can do this.
Mm-hmm.
We've just got to keep letting Imagine Cloud make mistakes, because they seem more than happy to do it again and again.
Yeah, and that's not to say that Spectre's been free of mistakes, as they've definitely been making
Oh,
a few.
absolutely not. But if Spectre can keep that calculus in their favor, keep their advantage more, or their mistakes less than what I see is
There you go.
making, they are in gravy here. And Aatrox, Lake is reprising his role of split push demon number 1 here. Will pop the TP though now that he's forced Just Relish to the top side. Just Relish does not have a TP, so this will be a 5v4 here with 14 seconds to go until the Drake. And Grease
Yeah,
stepping up, could be in trouble. The culling comes out. Grease now under 1,000 health already.
Ooh.
Under 300 will fall to the burn from learning. And here comes the rest of the team. The Weaver's Wall going in will split this fight. Dr. Dad trying to zone for the rest of his team, but Taste Green Beans may have dived a bit too deep. Just Relish cannot get through Lake, and the rest of Spectre is now able to help out their top laner. The Lucian will fall, but not before getting a triple kill. A 5-for-1 ace here for Spectre, and forget the dragon, they're going for the match.
I mean, yeah, like if it wasn't for that split-second Kingslayer, that last bit of damage coming out from Brewer, that is a 5-for-0 ace. And like you said, they're trying to go for the end here. They've got at least 16 seconds on Grease, the next person to come up. They might very well be able to end this right here.
Now one Nexus turret is going to fall. Swagasm is oh so low, down under 100 health. But one turret is down, 2 turrets on the way. Can they pull it off? The bubble lands at the cost of Nami, but it will not be enough. The Nexus explodes, and Swagasm survives. Spectre secures the match.
I mean, that was one heck of a game. Is definitely interesting. That a lot of back and forth, to say the least. Like it was literally right when we called it, where it's like, okay, Imagine Cloud has been in the lead the entire game, and now they've like the lead is just no longer theirs. I felt like at that point it was just like, dang, this very well might be just Spectre's game to win at this point, and it was.
Worth noting, Spectre did not have the kill lead at any point.
Mm-hmm.
25 to 24 was the final kill score, discounting the Nami execute to Fountain. Absolutely
Yeah,
wild, the fight from behind for Spectre.
yeah. I mean, they definitely pulled it out from that game alone. Like that game, it was just clawing back the entire time. Like you are one drag away. Like Cloud is one drag away from Soul, and they just denied that off of them. Like just back to back to back. They played the fights the way they needed to, wiped them in most of the fights that they took. And I mean that's all she wrote at that point.
Yeah, not much more to be said. Once you start winning fights and keep winning fights, that's how you win games. We just have one more question for you though.
Hit me with it.
Who is your player of the match? Who are we going to try and get to chat with here from the team of Spectre?
Ooh, I mean, I was feeling like he was performing pretty well the first two games. I might feel him this time around because he held his own. But learning did kind of go crazy in this third game.
Learning did go crazy. The question is that enough to counter the consistent play of Lake? I don't know. Coin flip to me.
Ooh, coin flip. Dang. Who to put? Who to pick? Who to pick? Ah! Do I want to be biased here? Do I want to be biased here? I'll be biased and say learning because I'm also an ADC player. That's all I'm
Alrighty.
gonna say.
We'll reach out and see if he is willing to come chat with us. In the meantime, anything else you want to break down about this game?
I mean, shout out to both teams. It was that like I'm there. I'm not over exaggerating by saying all three of these games are pretty freaking close. Like even though it's like it's 2-1 and Spectre takes the win here, like Imagine Cloud got that win in the first game, and they nearly got that win in the second game, and this game was pretty much in their hands, or they were ahead until like the last 2 minutes of the game. So I felt like it was just extremely close games all throughout the day.
We do have confirmation that learning is available, so let me get him in here for us, assuming Discord will decide to play nice. Learning, the
Oh,
team that you have built has managed to pull out another impossible win. Congratulations on your victory and on a massive comeback there in game number 3 to keep your standing near the top of BTL. How's it
thank
feel?
you, thank you. Pretty good. Feels good to be finally acknowledged for my role in the team. I play every fight perfect, but I'm ADC, so I just get blown up. So sometimes it doesn't look pretty, but I was happy with my performance this series, and it was a bit of a grinder, but we won.
This feels like a bit of a Zerathai angle, ADC ego kind, but
I mean, don't we all?
yeah.
I mean, as far as stuff I wanted to ask you, like, how is it? Like, how was your mentality, like, I guess, shifted coming out of that first game? Because I'm pretty sure it caught most people by surprise, at least myself, because I haven't really been paying too much attention to other games outside of Imagine Clouds, because played with them. But how was it picking that Syndra and then seeing how it was and then deciding to shift away from it?
I mean, I still like the Syndra pick because coming from mid lane, it's a champ I've played a lot. We just thought it was weird with our drafts how it shifted how we had to draft consistent damage and like the way we had to play fights. So we just went with more traditional after that, which I was fine with. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was just a mental reset after the first game. We hard played for our split push on the Fiora the second game, which ended up paying out, even though it was still really close. But I mean, I'm glad we were able to scrape it through.
And how
Yeah,
about
I
that third
mean,
game? Were y'all mentals a little bit shaken there after the rough early game, or?
In my head, we were ahead the whole game. I don't know what was going on top side. I just knew I was chilling and that I was gonna do damage in fights. I didn't even. I looked at the stream after. I thought we were up like 5K at the end, but apparently we were even. So I don't even know.
Yeah, yeah, you guys are up like barely like 200, 300 gold or so. I think a lot of it came down to like some of those fights in the mid game where I think Kaisa got that one quadra, and then it just made your position look a lot worse off just because like, okay, here's a Kaisa with like a whole item up on you,
Yeah,
but like you
not
you pretty much
optimal,
turned it
yeah.
around.
Mm-hmm.
Are
Let's
you at
see.
all concerned moving into the last week of the regular season here? Although I do think you have a game to make up still. Are you at all concerned moving into these last couple of games that having such a close match against a team like Imagine Cloud, who's sitting firmly in the middle of the pack, might spell problems for you moving into playoffs?
Um, I mean, I think they were a solid team. Definitely better than we expected. So give props to them for that.
Yeah, clearly it's
I mean
because they
they
swapped out their ADC, right?
All right, comedian.
yeah, for sure, for sure. No, but yeah, I think we haven't been playing too consistent these past couple games. We still got to work on, communication, map awareness, laning, vision control, CSing, poking, late game, mid game. But we'll work on those things
Is
slowly.
is
And
there anything you have consistently? I feel like you hit the entirety of the game with that list.
uh, I'm consistently cracked, and my mid laner consistently has 10 CS a minute every game. So I think that'll be enough to carry us.
Hey
All
man,
right.
sometimes you might need the stray fewer performance every once in a while. But hey, we
Sure.
take.
Also bringing
I guess you guys
in
take those.
Lake. He was our top laner last season. Now he's coming in to save the season once again. So pretty hype. The comeback story. But yeah.
Amazing. I was debating on bringing him in, but like I said, I got biased. I was like, because I was trying to think back, and I'm like, learning played fine enough on Kaisa in that second game anyway. I might as well just give it to him.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I put in a lot of work in these games, and my team flames me perma.
Such is life. It's like you play solo queue, they flame you there, and then you play comp expecting something different. But even when you do well, they flame you. You can't win.
Like I dash into a Viego stun one time, guys. My bad. It
Like, all
happened.
right, guys, I can't mess up once. All right, cool. But yeah, I mean that's all. That's all I got from my end. I don't think I've got that many more questions to ask this guy.
Yeah, before we let you go, is there anything else you'd like to say to Twitch chat, to BTL, to your team, to anyone out there who might be listening in?
Yeah, just a message to all the other teams: live by the lake or die by the lake.
Well, I
That's
don't
all.
know. I'd like a house on the lake, but
Mine dude's prepping himself to be a Friday the 13th victim. Like I'm not
So,
gonna. Like,
alrighty. Well, thank you for joining us here, learning. It was a pleasure watching your games, and it's been a pleasure watching you the whole season through. I had high hopes for y'all from the beginning. I hope you guys can carry my original predictions.
yeah, thank you, thank you. If
Uh,
anything, we play to entertain.
Absolutely. That being said, that's going to be the end for us this evening. We have no more matches. However, we do have a rescheduled match for tomorrow evening. So go ahead and make sure that you are back here. I believe it's at 8 p.m. as well, but I will need to check that. But be back here if you want to see more BTL gameplay. However, with that being said, I have been Alzeranor for myself, for SwiftDuelist, and for everyone here at Black Twitch League. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for supporting this league. And we'll see you guys next time. Good night, everybody.